Yo, yo, yo. DPS podcast, that's Damage Per Second podcast. We are back again on a fine Thursday night. I wish I was saying I was feeling all right, man, but I just finished one of the best games I've played in years, and the ending got me feeling some kind of way. So I'm not all right. I'm not all right quite yet. I'll be all right, but I'm a little in my emotions. You know, you watch a impactful movie or you play a game that really like hits you in the feels, and you just kind of just sitting there for hours after it's over, just like, how do I feel about this? But yeah, it's been that kind of day. You know, I can say I am tired with family and work, but the time I got to spend playing some games is pretty good. We are going to have a pretty awesome show, and we might have a guest joining us. I'll keep an eye on that. Mr. Game Logic said he wanted to come through, so hopefully he's able to make it. But in the meantime, what is up, my co-host Gaming Forte? What's up, man?
You almost caught me in the middle of a yawn.
Oh my God! I know you didn't just yawn. That's the first thing you did on the mic. Like we are not doing that tonight.
Man, this is a long day, man. It's like not even tired, just well, but no, great day. Just been chilling. Haven't really got a chance to play too many games this week. Been a lot of work stuff going on. My store is being upgraded to some new stuff that we're going to be doing in it. So I've been dealing with that all week, and just tired, cooking a lot over the course of the last couple of days. You know, that just lets you know I didn't cook a lot. My wife was definitely the steward of that thing. So SloMo, I envy you for being a person that's been doing it for a long time. It takes a minute.
I wouldn't say a long time.
Well, it's longer than me.
I am an expert at cooking 3 things. Everything else, I make a really good pasta. Like my kids love my pasta. My pasta is fantastic. Okay. I can destroy some spaghetti. I mean, okay. Like I be throwing down, adding little extra things in there. You know, throw a little cheddar cheese on the top. Kids love it. Mm-hmm. And quesadillas. I can make some fantastic quesadillas.
Okay.
That's it.
That's only 2
Don't
things.
ask me to do. Huh?
You said that's
I said 3.
2? You said, but that's only
that's
2
3.
you named.
No, I said 3.
You said you only named 2.
Pasta, quesadilla, spaghetti.
Pasta is
No. See, there's no. There's
are you
spaghetti.
Are you talking about spaghetti?
There
are you talking
is
about spaghetti where you
my pasta.
Are you no? F that.
No. What do you mean? What do you mean?
No,
what you talking about?
It's the same thing.
Look, okay, spaghetti is pasta, but there's a different look. I use small shells for my pasta. I got. Look, man, it's different. Okay, it's different. Bro. Just trust me.
It's the same family.
It doesn't matter. Look, that's what I do. Okay.
No, you
okay.
I need you
to get over all the way off my back. Okay. Those are 3 things.
Would say the same thing. She's like, those are 2 things.
3 things.
Okay, 3 things in your mind. It's 3 things. I know you skipped. You skipped 2 and went to 3. But go ahead.
Look, when I tell the kids I'm cooking one of those 3 things, they're excited.
Yeah, one of those, 2 of the 3 are the same. It's just a different variation.
I need you to stop hating. Okay.
I thought you was gonna say something
I am going to divert. I'm going
to, or
no.
Or
I'm gonna get there. I'm
bacon and eggs and something like that. You went all extravagant. And tried to say.
Look, okay, hold on.
It was
breakfast food. Breakfast food is excluded. Everyone does breakfast food.
BS. Some people can do it way better than others.
I mean, true, but like I make some. I'm allergic to eggs, but I can cook eggs really well. Yeah, but
Are you a grill master? Can you grill?
I'm okay. I wouldn't call myself a grill master. I go out there every now and then.
So somebody else takes care of that when they come over to do they man the grill.
No.
Your wife mans the grill,
bro. No, it's my grill.
Just because you pay for it, don't mean you're the one that uses it.
And I'm the only one that uses it. That's it. Okay, so
okay, I believe
but like in breakfast, like I bacon, eggs, and like make some hash browns. That's easy stuff. I'm not. I don't really call that cooking, because everybody knows how to do that.
Okay, if everybody knew how to do it, McDonald's wouldn't be as.
I mean, that's just. I mean, look, we go
laziness.
I wouldn't want to say that, but I mean, it depends.
Yeah, that's
sometimes
exactly what it is.
You don't have time. Sometimes you just don't have time.
Because you want to sleep in.
Or you just don't have time. Look,
because it's okay. What's the main reason you don't have time? Main reason you don't got time is because either you're lazy, because you want to sleep in, and you said, you know what, I was gonna get up and cook something, but I'm tired and I'm about to lay in this bed for another 40 minutes and then get McDonald's on the way to work.
Okay, see, that sounds like something a single person would have to deal with. Like, I get up at like 6:30.
Yep.
At the earliest. I'm getting kids ready for school. I'm having to double check to make sure they actually got out of bed, kids. I'm making sure they're ready while I'm cooking breakfast. I get them to school, like the school schedule, the multiple schools. I gotta like make sure I'm getting there on time and everything.
This sounds like
the
the
best way through traffic.
American family type beginning of the morning, where dad is in there cooking, saying, "You want some eggs with your toast?"
But listen,
sitting at the island.
I will go to McDonald's. I'll go to McDonald's and get coffee, just because.
Well, coffee.
Weirdly enough,
McCaff is good.
I like their coffee better than the home stuff that I'll get, or I'll get like some iced coffee or whatever, just cause. So it's just like it's more of I'd rather do that, and I'll do that. I do that on the way home because there's one on my way home, and then like when I get back I'm working from home, and so that's my process. But like I wouldn't say everybody that go to a McDonald's just lazy. If you do it every day, you're lazy.
Whoa. See, you got it backwards, Gregor. Forte clearly never cooks. You know how long it takes to shred potatoes and soak them. That's what listen, you got it mixed up. I said there is actually more to making breakfast food than people are saying. SloMo is the one that said, "Oh man, that's easy. That's easy. Anybody can do that." And I'm sitting there like, "What are you talking about?" It depends on what type of level of cooking in the morning you're doing. Like what he just said, shredding potatoes. Like you said, you made hash browns. I guarantee those hash browns probably came from Aldi's or Kroger.
So
they ain't the homemade ones.
So what if they did?
Where you peel the potato and shred it yourself.
So what if they did? That's fine.
I'm not mad at it. They all taste the same to me. One just takes a little bit more effort and gets you a little bit more in the end from your lady friend if she know that you put that type of effort in.
Anyway. This is not the cooking podcast. Okay, we can get to these topics. I know you ain't played nothing this week. I'm gonna talk about the game I played. I beat Expedition 33 earlier today. It's I have a total on Steam of 90 hours in the game. I literally beat every single boss that's in this game, all of them. Even the two hardest bosses that are optional. Okay, we got game logic here. Let me drop him in. I beat the two hardest bosses that are optional. That the reason why I have 90 hours instead of say like 75 is because of them two bosses. Them two bosses. Like I think you could probably beat the game at like level, I mean, clearly, definitely levels lower than mine. I max leveled all my well, not all of them. I max leveled the majority of my characters. I may have like 2 characters that are like levels 97 and 98, but everyone else is level 99. That was also just because I really love the build crafting aspect of things, and so I just kind of wanted to just quote unquote complete the build. But fantastic game, fantastic story. Great characters. Something that I enjoy about the storytelling in this game, and I'm not going to get into any details because I don't want to spoil anything, but the way the storytelling is done in this game is so different than what you normally get from video games. I would even say it's not even what you would typically get from a TV show or a movie, where you can kind of predict where things are going multiple times. And I consume a lot of content, movies, TV shows, video games, story-wise for the most part. And I don't knock games for it, but for the most part, I figure out the twists before they happen. I figure out where the story's going before it happens. Sometimes it annoys me, like with Avowed, where I felt like I knew the ending in the first 5 minutes of the game. Not first 5, but the first 5 hours of the game. And sometimes I will knock a game's story for being too obvious with where it's going. But this game, multiple times, kind of threw me for a loop where I didn't expect certain things to happen the way they did. And just kind of going into just the details of the studio, Sandfall Interactive, and how they found their lead writer on Reddit. Like, I've never heard of things like this. They found the sound director, which the music in this game, it should be like in competition with South of Midnight for Music of the Year. We know why South of Midnight won't get nominated, because you know how this stuff turns out when it comes to darker complexion stuff. But anyway, but that's not the point. But I can really see this game winning like best music soundtrack or best whatever, whatever those categories are. And they found their sound guy, their music guy on SoundCloud. Like, I'm just like, I didn't know you could do this. I didn't know people, this is how people, found the best talent. But I'm glad they did, because this game kind of bucks a lot of trends in regards to how AAA developers and publishers tell you how games need to be made, and why certain things that we complain about have to be that way simply because, it's the way we always do things. And I'm glad that that's not the case with this game, and they kind of like show that there is a different way to do things. Despite the fact that, you're going to have some people who are going to say, well, it's turn-based, even though it has a lot of parrying and dodging involved that really change things up, and it's not your typical traditional turn-based combat. But it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. But clearly, when you got like the critical acclaim that you have, when you have the commercial success, the game hit 2 million copies sold, which is fantastic for a brand new studio and a brand new IP. It's just I'm just really happy for the studio, and just glad to be able to experience the game as it is. And we got some more to talk about that in the rapid fires, of course. Game Logic, what's up, man? How you doing, bro? If you're talking, you're still muted. And okay, there we go.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why the software thing. I never use that. It did it myself. Good, man. Good. How are you?
Sounds like somebody making excuses.
Good, man.
Oh, Forte.
At least 3 times a night.
Let me go in at
You're
you first.
talking behind a mute.
Oh, you definitely can. You can definitely go in at me, brother.
Forte,
Let's go.
Here we go.
As I was getting ready, right, to come on the show, I had the monitoring laptop, right, the MacBook, listening to the YouTube, right, hearing you guys. We have some extreme philosophical differences. You don't come over to another man's house and man his barbecue.
Yeah, facts.
I don't care.
Like that
I don't
does
care.
not happen.
I
Ever.
don't care if you're a grill master. You don't barbecue in another man's house. You don't suggest it. You don't ask it unless you and he had some bro time beforehand and y'all prearrange that.
Listen, it had nothing to do about somebody else coming to his house and manning his grill. I just asked him a question and he answered it correctly. But the main question,
you were trying to lead him. You were trying to lead him.
I was leading him to the point that he ain't the one that's doing most of the barbecuing in that house. It's probably that amazing wife of his that does most of it.
Hey, a man's grill is a man's grill. If he chooses to have that in his partnership with his wife, that's his business in his house. You don't suggest that somebody else coming over to that man's house to use his barbecue.
Y'all just so sacrilegious. Like this is like the holy grail of grilling.
Look, man, this society has rules. We have rules. If we allow them to be broken down, despite what's going on around in the world, we just lost.
Chaos.
We gotta maintain.
So basically what you're saying is you would allow, he can't touch you. He can wear your apron, but he can't touch your grill.
No, he can't wear the apron.
No,
he can't wear the apron either.
No, unless he
can't use the utensils.
This is what you can do. You can sit down at the table and accept the food that comes to you and shut up. That's it.
Yeah, you can offer to help. Like
this is all you can do.
Your brother, if that man comes to you and says, "Hey man, you need some help. You need me to
hey man, you want me to put some vinegar on? You want me to spray some vinegar?
You get it off the grill. You want me to take it into the house, right? Whatever, what's going on? Like you got an apron I can put on, right? You can do that, right?
Okay.
You can't be bogarting the man out of the way, out of his space. That's his domain.
This is what I can tell you. In my garage, can you go get the cooler and go pick me up some ice? That's about it. That's all you can do.
He said, pick me up some ice.
Pick me up some ice, bro.
Oh wow.
Thank you, appreciate you.
Somehow I heard part of what you were talking about too. And look, when you were talking about you had just completed Expedition 33 today, like earlier, right in the show intro, I could hear that little crack in your voice, and I knew you were going through it, and that makes me feel good because I know we're in the same place.
Yeah, man. I can't. We'll talk off the air because I don't want to ruin anything for anyone that's still playing through the game. But I wasn't expecting the kind of ending that it turned out to be. Even though I kind of going into it and beating, like, I know you didn't beat all the side bosses. I beat all the side bosses. I saw all of the really, really important journal entries. Not just the ones from the expeditions that failed, but from the ones from certain characters as well.
Yeah, I
had a good idea of what I had a whole idea of what all the lore was, all the secrets of what was happening before I went into the final mission. And I still went into it like and playing through it was like, oh crap. Like like I just at one point just put the controller down, just started staring at my screen like, are we for real right now? It was really good. And I think some of the best stories are the stories that make you really think about what's right and what's wrong. Understanding that not everything is so black and white, and you can how that doesn't seem to be a good decision.
What difficulty did you play on, SloMo?
I played on Expeditioner, which is just normal.
The normal.
I'm gonna do when I do New Game Plus, I'm doing Expert. I mean, even though even on I never dropped it to easy, but I heard on easy missing parries against these optional bosses is a 1-hit wipe anyway. So like when you get into like Act 3, you go up against some optional bosses, Forte, that like if you miss a parry or a dodge and they hit you, you might as well just be a glass cannon, because it doesn't matter how much health you stack on yourself, you're dead. They're going to kill you like you're dead. One hit not laid you down.
Well, and even that,
Just
it's like the odds are just going to get up against you, right? Like they're, like you're saying, like there are optional bosses you cannot defeat unless you master parrying, because what happens is if you don't parry, let's even say you dodge the whole time. The problem is that the damage that you're going to do against them is like chip damage, and the fight's just going to last too long, and eventually it's going to get to you.
Yeah. You're going to make a mistake and you're going to get hit. Yeah. You need to do the parries, because if you parry, let's say a boss comes at you with like a 5-hit combo. It's not even just a boss. There'll be regular enemies that be coming at you with like 3 to 5-hit combos, right? You parry all 5 of them. On the 5th one, you'll do a counter. And you can actually, like, they have these thing called Pictos, which is basically mods. And you could put Pictos / mods on to increase your counter attack damage, so that you're doing a massive amount of damage to the enemy, but you need that counter attack damage to kind of help you eliminate these enemies. And the game's got a ton of build variety. There's just so many different ways to build out your characters, your team loadouts, like how they synergize together. There are certain characters that are good at buffing or debuffing, characters that are good at, like, depending on how you spec everything out, you can have one character be set up to buff a specific character all the time. And so that other character becomes even more dangerous when it comes to DPS because of the other character that's buffing them. It's just, there's so many different ways to get into it. And one of the rapid fire topics is going to be specifically about what I just said, because the devs came under fire a little bit earlier was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, with a statement they came out with. But we'll get into that later. Logic, what have you been playing? What you been up to, man?
So I also just I completed Expedition 33 on Sunday afternoon. I have proceeded to think about it every day, almost the entire day since then, because I'm sure we've all kind of watched like movies like this, right? Or TV shows. Like there are certain TV shows like I watch with my wife. And I'm on a dynamic mic tonight, guys, and it's more difficult with a dynamic mic for me to get the audio levels right. So in the chat, if the mic is too loud, just let me know.
Okay, no problem.
But yeah, I mean, we watch, like you mentioned, you watch lots of different content, consume lots of different content. So there are these stories that, like, even when the story's done and you think you know everything, you realize that you think you know everything just because you had to fill in your own theories, right, to fill in the blanks. Like there's deliberately things that you aren't told, and you have to establish your own convictions of what you believe to have been the case. And even when you do that, you're going to wind up having a conversation with somebody who has a different perspective on like a certain facet of the story, and then you're going to question yourself. Like, this is the type of game that when you complete the game, literally everyone that you talk to will have a different theory of some number of components of the story. In addition to just the fact that your playthroughs are all going to be different, right? To a certain extent, you're going to have some things that are in common, but you're going to have a lot of things that aren't. So, I mean, I've talked about some games in the past, like God of War and the 2018 reboot and Ragnarok, and Tilu, right, and Tilu 2, and I've talked about like watching the show The Walking Dead, right, and there are elements of all of those stories that, depending on where you are in life, they will wind up hitting you a different way, right? And that is also very true of this story. the experience was amazing. There's lots of things from a mechanical perspective that like this is not my type of game. I don't like the Souls type stuff. I've never really particularly liked parry systems.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically try and get by without like really being forced to use them. I will say, in contrast to many of the games that we have, like, granted, minus the Souls games, like many games have a parry system in them, but there's ways to play the game without having to master it. This is not one of those games. In my belief, it is absolutely essential for you to master the parry system. Because of, like I said, like when you hit those optional bosses, but also when you hit bosses, like there are fights you're going to get into that the only way for you to get through the fight is to parry and hit that massive damage. And especially when gradients, when gradient attacks come into play.
Right, yeah.
And
I like how they introduced that so much later in the game. So it's almost as if to not overwhelm the player with too much to try to learn and master all at once. Once they believe that if you just mainline the content, if you've made it to this point, you should have mastered this by now. Let's add in something else now. Now you have these gradient attacks that get introduced like in the middle of Act 2. And that's I think it was smart to do that and not have someone go, oh yeah, there's gradient attacks. You know what those are? It like literally as you're starting Act 1. They kind of slow walked you through those things, which I thought was smart.
Yeah, and like I said, this is not my type of game. I don't like having to have this like skill set in games. I have historically my entire gaming life, and I have been gaming since gaming began. I have historically hated boss battles, right? I just endemically dislike the design of them. You're gonna teach me and train me how to fight a certain way and learn certain skills, right? And then you're gonna throw me into a battle where everything that I've come to understand and believe about this game is untrue. Right? That is essentially what the design of most boss battles is. In addition to like the cheat of just having the boss do things that are like, as far as in your head, are like kind of mechanically like beyond, right, the capabilities that you've come to expect to have to like encounter just for the boss battle.
You giving me PTSD off that. There's a boss in this game, and I really want to hear the developer justify how they the implementation of this boss in this game. It is a secret boss that is the hardest boss in the entire game. Logic. I'm just going to give you the details without spoiling anything. This boss has two phases.
Is it the one you have to constantly parry the whole time?
It's not even parry, jump. Matter of fact, there is a particular time where the boss is attacking you so fast with the whole, like, so when you have to jump, there's a huge flashing symbol that pops up that and you get and it kind of slows down a little bit so you get time to jump. The boss is attacking you so much that the actual game doesn't complete the animation of you jumping and hitting the enemy before you need to jump again. And so you literally can't look at what your character is doing. You're just reacting. Symbol flashes, jump, parry, symbol flashes, jump, parry, slow it, wait for it, parry. It's just, and this boss changes it up so often. And you see this throughout the game where you'll get into a cadence, like a rhythm. A boss will attack you with a certain combination and you just know, all right, parry, wait a moment, parry. Okay, now there's a counter. Some of these bosses are like, it's like it defies logic. Like there's a particular boss that all he does is, he's a big rock, and all he does is, all you can do is parry him. That's how you win the fight. You parry him until he gets tired and dies. And it's like literally like 150 parries you have to do. And it's a rock falling. So the way gravity works is, if you're the same weight as you always been, you should be falling at the same speed. But this particular boss would be like falling at the same speed, and then it slows down. Like right before it gets close to hitting the ground to throw you off, then it speeds up and drops, and it's just like, come on, man. It just, when it catches you one time, and then like 80% of your party's health just goes away, you're just like, bro, what are we doing, man? But to go back to that secret boss, in the second phase does two things that I'm just like, when we get into this next topic, the first rapid fire topic, you're gonna understand why I feel the way I feel about it. The boss attacks and then has an after image that attacks you with the same attacks, but they're a millisecond behind. So when you parry, you have to parry 2 or 3 times depending on the combo. And if you miss one, you're dead. You're that character is out. One hit or quitter. Yep. They're gone. And if you take too long, if you get close to like 25%, this for me, for the majority of the time I was fighting this boss, first phase, whooping his behind. Second phase, I would get him down to like 25% health. And then he'll just do this move. He'll just be like, yeah, the fight's over. I don't feel like fighting no more. You're dead. And you can't dodge it. There is no parrying it. There's no getting out of the way of it. You need to beat this boss. You need to destroy the majority of this boss's health before
he gets tired of you.
Yeah, before you get to like 25% left, you basically need to have an attack that can wipe out at minimum 30% of his health. Because if he gets in within that 25%, when he gets his go, it's over.
Yeah, there's so many, and I mean,
it's crazy.
You meet them late game. There's so many bosses who do things like, I'm trying to say things without like giving away parts of it. Like things like that, right? They do things that put you on a time limit, right? And it's like, you need to solve this problem, right, in X number of turns, or else it's game over. You have bosses that do things like turn certain of your abilities or powers like against you. You have bosses that, like, one of the things that I love, now Enrique and I were talking about this, is because it's another thing that I'll mention. Like, I think there's 3 things that that this game forces you to do that it doesn't give you an option to not do. Again, in a way that some other games let you have like an out, right? You have to learn how to master parry. You have to, in late game, you must start paying attention to attack types that are weaknesses or our enemies are resistant to, because that little bit of quarter in a battle will determine right whether you get through it or whether or not you're gonna have to do it over.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I would say the third thing is you in late game, you also really have to, you can get by, I would say, almost 50% of the game not really paying attention to managing Pictos and Luminas. But after about halfway through the game, you need to start digging through those menus like you're playing a Diablo game. Like, and get your builds together and get your stuff straight. Because like you can just kind of brute force your way, I think, through maybe the first half of the game, maybe a little less than that. And you can just kind of randomly assume stuff, and like because you're gonna get bedazzled, right? You're gonna get bedazzled by like stumbling upon like the different attack types, and one of the things that's probably the greatest thing about this game is the animations. Like the combat animations team, like this game, I hope this game gets a technical award sometime during award season, because the animations team was just on fire. Like the way when an enemy hits you, certain enemies hit you with that attack that hits all three of your characters in a gradient attack, and you hit the gradient parry, and all three of them parry it. And if you watch the animations close, there are some times where they will stunt, right? Like a football team offensive line, right? The two characters that are on the flanks will pull and crisscross, right? In the course of the animation, you'll hit the counter, which is like, depending on what attack they use, is also just an amazing animation. And then they'll go back right to the opposite sides of the formation. Like, it is just all these animations and certain attacks that people hit, especially like Mael and Verso. I love Mael's parry, because she's such a queen, man. She turns her back on the enemy and then flourishes her sword, and then whips around and strikes them with this. Like, like I said, the animations in this game are just like, you could just sit there. But
you can see her personality in it, because she's a kid, she's a teenager, so it makes sense that she'd be a bit more cocky with it, flamboyant with it. Yeah.
The other one I love is CLs. CLs, when it's on a gradient parry, she gets hit, she gets pushed and slides back, and you can see like the rocks and dirt flying out from her feet as she's getting pushed back. And when she gets near the end of that pushback, she starts twirling the scythe behind her back. Like it looks like Thor, right? Like twirling the hammer, and then she comes back and like whips it back around. It's just it's an amazing bit of animation work. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, because I wanted to, since we're talking so much about the game, we might as well just jump into these rapid fire topics. And the first rapid fire topic, pop, is about Expedition 33 and Sandfall Interactive, because they're nerfing a specific skill in the game. And this skill has been something that has, I think the way they described it was they thought before the game launched that the skill needed a bit of a buff, but what they didn't take into account is when you have a game that has so much build diversity that you can't take into account every combination that people will come up with, as millions of people are playing your game and you're just 30 developers. All 30 of you can't think of every combination that would make something broken or OP, but millions of people will clearly. And so this skill is getting nerfed. They're coming out with a high fix to fix a lot of bugs, which, of course, a game that was developed with only 30 developers and this much content are going to have bugs. And the PC version in particular is far buggier than the console version of the game. But this caused a bit of a debate among people who have been playing the game in regards to if it's necessary to really nerf an ability like this, despite how broken it is in a single player RPG. And so I kind of wanted to bring that to you guys to see what your thoughts were on this. And since you are a bit further into it, and maybe you have encountered this ability or this skill already, Logic, but what were your thoughts on it?
So I didn't encounter this ability. I finished my run at like in the low 60s for level. Mm-hmm. So I may not have obtained it. I was also really random about how I went around the skill tree. I was not like trying to deliberately build like OP builds. I was just kind of highly experimental. So I didn't run into this particular skill or combination. So I have a quirky philosophy that doesn't grok with a lot of gamers. I kind of rather firmly believe that the owners of the game are the developers, right? That it's their vision, that they set out with a charter of a thing that they wanted to achieve, and it's up to them to create, right, whatever they choose. And I get that, like, there are development teams who are out trying to build, you know, a Call of Duty or something that hits like mass appeal, and they're all concerned about like the commerciality of the project. But there are going to be a lot of creators in any artistic endeavor who are in that artistic endeavor because they wanted the provenance of creating something that was their own vision. And they hope that people accept it, but like their priority isn't necessarily acceptance, right? So like, you know, A, I didn't encounter this. B, I don't have any intentions of 100%ing the game. I am going to do a second run. You and I joked about this and talked about it. I'm going to buy a second copy on Steam that I'm going to use to do like all of like, you know, the new game plus stuff, and do just a completely separate run. The biggest part of the experience for this game for me was the story. So this aspect like really doesn't mean anything to me, right? Doesn't impact me. Because I saw a lot of mutuals who were really twisted about this. Krista Toast and Innate and Hero Down Under, and because a lot of my mutuals were twisted about this, I was like, okay, well, I'm trying to be a better person, and so I'm trying to understand people when they have issues and not just say, well, you guys are messed up, right? And so I talked to them about it, and you know, some of them are like, hey, look, you know, I discovered this, right? And that's part of the wonder of this game, is just like the discovery. And by hook or crook, right, I earned this. So it's kind of like a Souls game. It's kind of like over leveling in a Souls game, or like the part of the Souls community that doesn't like people who use magic or whatever, and then you have the group of people who are like, it's in the game. Like, of course I'm going to use it, right? I'm gonna twist an arm, break a leg, do whatever I gotta do to beat this dude, right? I'm not gonna play fair, right? Because the devs weren't playing fair with me in the first place. So I understand that perspective. I'm not particularly hurt or harmed about it. I hate to speak for him, but Innate's concern was the you know, this is gonna start a trend with the devs, that they're gonna like routinely go in and like tweak and muck and nerf, you know, things that that people don't like, and they're going to do this frequently, and it's just going to be this thing where they're always butting up against some group of people who are bothered by whatever they're nerfing,
which has happened in the past a lot.
Yes.
Typically this is a slippery slope where you start you nerf one thing and it's like whack-a-mole, because the people who do a lot of build crafting in games like this, they'll just come up with something else. Like I know there are people, I've already seen some people saying, hey, here after they nerf Mael's it has like a German name, Steindal or something like that. That's the name of the skill. The people are talking about, okay, post nerf, here is another setup that can actually do just as much damage or more. When you have a game that has this much build diversity, you don't have enough hammers in the world to stop unless you just wholesale nerf everything. But my only issue with this, and I'm not always like anti-nerf things. I'm more about balancing things. Like, it's about how you intended people to play the game. And if you have bosses in the game where, hey, look, if you beat this boss, you have really mastered parrying in this game. Like, you can now do all the aspects of everything that we implemented, and you got it just downloaded in your brain, like in its muscle memory at this point. That's fine. But when you got bosses in the game that just end the fight, when you get within 25% of their final health, when you got bosses in the game, this is another boss, where after your teams go, they just give themselves 500,000 health back in a heal.
That happens on multiple bosses in multiple ways. Some do it to themselves. Some have like a minion,
a backup or something. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and
it gets.
But there's a particular boss where you can't like go after the person that like stop the heal. You can't stop. So it's just like at this point, the only way to really beat this boss is to out DPS them, is to hit them with so much damage so fast that they can't recover fast enough. And that's like you literally create the environment where your players in your community are creating ways to beat this content, and is not in the method of how you taught them how to play the game. Hey, parry counter. Hey, you can dodge if you want, but it's better to parry. It's team synergy. Team synergy isn't a lot of the reason why this stuff is kind of broken as it is, because that particular skill, I saw some people online on Twitter who clearly hadn't used it, saying it's not right that someone with no setup, no prep work can just use a skill and just one shot a boss. And I'm like, so you definitely have never used this. Like, I came across this ability partially, 90% of it, I was actually already kind of doing the setup that other people started doing. I just wasn't using that specific skill. I had completely ignored it. I had unlocked it and never actually used it. It wasn't until people were talking about it and I was like, oh, that's what that does? Is that broken? I was using other of her abilities, like I'm not gonna say the name of one because it's a spoiler. You probably know what I'm talking about. But there's another one called Sword Ballet. I was using that. And I was using the one where she does a massive AoE attack with light damage. I forgot the name of it. But I was using those two with a weapon that essentially you have a 67% chance of not getting early on in the game. So to break this down for people, they're nerfing a build, a skill that needs a specific weapon to be effective. It also needs another character to do two things for you. One, you gotta have a particular ability that allows you to go twice for each character, which you have to beat maybe one of the top 10 hardest bosses in the game to actually get. So there's that. So you get that, you equip that on everyone. Then you get this one other character to do two things. They use one skill that doubles Mael's damage, and then they use another skill that allows her to jump the line and go next. Then you do that, and then she gets to go using the broken ability with her weapon that gives her 200% additional damage, which now is 400% additional damage because the other character buffed her. And then you still need like a whole bunch of other buffing picto/mods to really get the most out of it. Does that sound like, oh, you just equipped an ability and now you're one-shotting bosses? Like that's an oversimplification of what's really happening here. And that's what building a great loadout and building, like, that stuff is fun. Even if someone basically looked at a YouTube video and copied it, you doing that may not even guarantee you could do it. Because what if in Act 1 you made different choices and didn't even have access to that weapon? And now the only way to get that weapon is to beat maybe the third hardest boss in the game. It's not as simple as people make it out to be. I personally, I'm more pro balancing, than nerfing things. So if you're going to nerf this ability, what are you going to do about them two bosses? Because people are using that ability in the way they're using it because of your two broken bosses. You're going to say that ability is broken. You need to talk about your bosses being broken. How about that? How about, I think you have to balance things in a way where it's not making it easier. It's just making things fair. You know, it's not making it so that everybody can beat it, because it's clearly not content that was designed for just about anybody to beat. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult, but it's also not supposed to be impossible. And it's also not supposed that like if you're gonna have a boss that's just going to like, yeah, this fight's over. I'm close to dying, so I'm just going to end the fight now. You're basically saying you need to do enough damage to put this boss down before he even gets to that point. You can't be mad at people for creating builds that are basically what you told them to do. You told them to kill this boss before he even gets to that point. They did that. And they'll continue to keep doing that with other characters, with other setups, with other combinations. So that's the slippery slope. Because if your president, if your mentality is, we can't have one-shotting bosses, but you got bosses that will one-shot you. Okay. But I'm gonna come up with something else that's going to one-shot them once you nerf that. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to nerf the new meta? And then once you nerf that, they're going to come up with something else. And meanwhile, while this is happening, you're just sowing discontent in the game, in the community of people who thoroughly enjoy and love your game. And we see this not typically in this kind of RPG. We see this in looter shooters often, where the developer is playing whack-a-mole trying to stop the meta, and people just find a different way around it until eventually they just get tired of having their time somewhat disrespected, as they spent so many hours building a particular setup, build, character, only for you to nerf it in the next update. It just comes a point in time where people just get tired of it and they move on. And it's really, overall, I think, kind of pointless. I understand you have a vision of your game, but it's not like everybody's doing this. You know, like at Logic, didn't even know the ability existed, beat the game already. Never touched it. Forte, I think Forte, you're still in Act 1, right? Forte's probably asleep.
Forte's not sleepy here.
Okay, all right. You're still in Act 1, right?
Yeah, because I haven't played since Saturday.
Right. They've nerfed this ability before you even got the opportunity to even do anything in this realm. So it's just like, it's I think it's a bit premature for them to go this far. I think that's something that you do.
Well,
further down the line.
Well, it all depends if they have. Well, normally they will talk about things that they're going to do, because they know why people are using certain abilities against certain bosses, because they know there's something that's just overtuned or something, or just broken with the encounters or stuff that they're doing it in. And we also know that, you know, when it comes to gamers, they will always take the path of least resistance. So if they can find a way to make something easier for themselves, they're going to do it 100% of the time. So it's interesting that they didn't say that they were going to like fix any tuning along with this, especially if they know that one of the main reasons for that is
they're dropping this hotfix tomorrow. They're dropping this. It's coming to Steam first, so it will be on Steam tomorrow. It'll hit the Windows PC, Xbox, and PlayStation at a later date that they haven't stated yet. But we'll see what the patch notes are tomorrow. And another issue that, and I agree with this because this was like my initial response to it was, so you nerfing things, but your game buggy and crashing. Like I am more pro for stabilizing your game than nerfing things. Like in order of importance, and as I'm tearing that out, I would like you to stop the UE5 fatal error before you start nerfing builds, because the game is and they came out with a high fix last week that had the game crashing even more than it was when it launched. So like, I love you guys because you made a great game, and this it's clearly in my top 10 now of games of all time, but you can't avoid the smoke if it's necessary. You know what I mean?
So I had a couple of theories or thoughts earlier today, and some of these were formulated without kind of hearing some of the things that you mentioned. I mean, the bugs that I encountered on PC were every once in a while, it would freeze when it was trying to load. So like when I picked my save file and said load this, it would freeze. And so I would get out of the game and then restart it, and then it would go until what I found out was just don't select the save file like the split second that it comes up on the screen. Don't hit continue. And that seemed to settle out. So other than that, I didn't. And sometimes it was that UE5 like fatal error thing. So, but other than that, I didn't encounter problems with it on the PC. So part of these theories were based on me feeling like it wasn't a particularly buggy game, except for that one thing, which repeated itself pretty consistently. It's a small team, and yes, there was stuff that was outsourced, and there were things that, but all of that stuff that was done beyond the core team, as far as I believe, that's over now. Right, they paid those expanded add-on people to do whatever they needed them to do, and those people went away. I think there's a good chance they don't even have the core 30 anymore, right? Because the gaming industry is volatile. People come on for projects, and then when projects end, they move on to the next project, right?
Right.
And so or they could be doing a Helldivers thing where like they are onboarding more people, but those people are new and they're trying to get them trained up. So either way, they could have a lot of team volatility going on right now. Some people have thought that it's strange that they picked this one thing and that this one thing seems to be small, and they're doing this now. And so part of my theory is that, when you change code, right, you inject an exponential number of additional things that you're going to break, right, for every change that you make. And so it's a new team. They're relatively immature in terms of the O&M of the game. I wonder if they are kind of like prototyping and testing, right, their process that they're going to roll changes out. And so therefore keeping the scope of that fairly small so they don't disrupt a bunch of other stuff and further destabilize the game. Because the game's only been out for like a couple weeks. And so I'm like, well,
right.
Why bother doing this now? It seems like you would let this marinate out in the wild for about a month, before you went in and tried to do anything. And so I wonder, part of the thought is let's do a small thing that's relatively controlled, that we know what we're doing, test the whole, DevOps pipelines and blah, 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 and how we're going to roll this out. And then see how that goes, and then plan on replicating that with a larger patch. Because as you said, it's multi-platform, right? So it's on 3 different platforms, and it's an incredibly small team, right? So to me, it's going to be a challenge to maintain code concurrency, right, across 3 different major builds. And I don't know if it's PS5 Pro enhanced or right. So, I mean, they've got a significant configuration management challenge in my mind, as it is. So, we'll see how it goes. And then the other thought I had was, and I don't want to disparage anybody else's thoughts on this, because Enate kind of was thinking along the same lines you were, right? That all these experiences that you guys have had where, right, this becomes a slippery slope and the snowball eventually picks up momentum, right? I guess I hold space a little bit for the team with the thought that they've gone and done something that's incredibly unusual, right, in terms of industry norms. I guess in my head, I think that there's a good chance that they're not going to do that because that is also a norm. And so that, they're in the same way in which they did like a unique thing to develop.
Right.
I'm
so
hoping
they're so unique and different that we expect them to do what we've seen other developers do, which is continue to nerf things, because they did it in the beginning where they could very well go left where everyone else goes right, simply because, hey, look, they've been going left when everyone else goes right for the entirety of this entire process. So that does make some sense, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's I'm right and everybody else. I mean, it's just yet another perspective, right, in the field of viewpoints that are out there.
True. I mean, bug wise, I didn't call it really a buggy game before the hotfix. From launch to the hotfix, I may have had like 2 UE5 fatal error crashes, and that's it. Outside of that, I couldn't think of any bug issues. I did think some of the graphical settings were a bit off. And I thought those things, but that's typical stuff that you would see from a game that gets released on PC, and you expect it to get, as updates come out, over the following weeks, they optimize things better. I thought it ran a little heavy for the even though visually it's a beautiful game. But it is Unreal Engine 5, and so it does run a little rough at times. But after the hotfix, I remember in the 2-hour time span after I did the hotfix, the game crashed more times on me than it did in any of the hours before I was playing the game before the hotfix. It got to the point where it was crashing every time I would load my game save. And then what they didn't do with Steam is Steam has this beta program. And so the way it works is that, like, I'll take Cyberpunk for an example. When Cyberpunk released a big update over a year ago, and it broke frame generation, you could just downgrade your version of Cyberpunk to the earlier version before that and play without it. Play without the latest update, you still have frame generation working, it's no problem. Sandfall didn't put Expedition 33 in the beta program. Therefore, there is no Steam holding, like, in a directory, older versions of the game's build. Therefore, when you got that update, that's it. There's no going back, and so you just gotta live with it. I did eventually start getting it to stop crashing as often. Another thing, and there are plenty of mods that are out there trying to fix the performance, and I definitely recommend, if you're playing on PC, go use those mods because they're good. But there was another really weird issue that I've never encountered before. So I have a 2 dual monitor set up on my PC. I have a 4K monitor that's 144 hertz, and I have a 1440p monitor that's 165 hertz. Both of them are LG monitors. I play the majority of my single player games on my 4K monitor. And then occasionally I'll play shooters, competitive games on the 1440p monitor with the higher refresh rate, like Call of Duty. And for some reason with this game, after the update, it started like every time a cutscene would occur, or if I died, it would switch monitors. It would switch from my 4K monitor to my 1440p monitor. And when I would try to switch back in the settings, it didn't recognize that it was on the wrong monitor. And so it would be frozen and wouldn't change anything. And then half the times when it was doing that, it would lock out me changing any of the settings, or it would be the wrong resolution on the 1440p monitor, and then I would just have to go into Task Manager and end the game and restart it in order to get it working again. These are all the like really annoying issues. So it got to the point where I just gave up trying to play on my 4K monitor. And for the second half of the game, I just played the whole second half of the game on the 1440p monitor. Because I just couldn't play. I couldn't play on the 4K. I just, if I die, which if you're trying to beat these massive bosses, you're gonna die a lot. Kept switching to the wrong monitor. Cutscene starts, switch to the wrong monitor. It's just, I got sick of it. So, long story short, because we've really been talking about Expedition for about an hour now. We'll see how this Nerf goes. We can probably discuss it next week when the patch is officially out for like all platforms at that point, more than likely, and we can see how that turned out for them. Hopefully it turns out great. Hopefully a lot of the other issues are stabilizing the performance of the game, and a lot of the balancing that needs to happen in the game. It's not just, hey, we're just nerfing this ability that we don't like, that everyone figured out how to set up with all the the tools that we provided. But we'll see what happens. Anything else you guys want to say about this before we move on?
No, man, y'all killed it. I can't wait to get to the portion where you guys are.
Yeah, I can't wait to get your opinion on this game's ending, because I think, Forte, you would have some very interesting, knowing you would have some very interesting thoughts on how this all played out. But we'll cross that bridge when we get it. Yeah,
Forte, I am going to need you to finish this game, please, sir. I'm going to need you to pick it up a little bit, okay?
Well, listen, we'll talk offline.
Right. I'm understanding. So, right. I'm understanding. I'm not demanding that you finish it now, but
no, the goal is to finish it within the next week or so. No longer than the next 2.
All right, man. You gotta get on the ball then. But you're gonna hit a lot of story beats. It's gonna have you like, oh my god, moment. So,
well, yeah, that's the part where you just say, I haven't hit that moment. I hit that moment one time where I was like, I want to go to bed, but I can't. So I'm just gonna wait till I hit that moment again, and I'll just push through it.
Gregor says, but that might be the issue with that monitor. You mean when it switched to the other monitor and I had to kill the game to keep going because it froze. I mean, maybe so, Gregor, but it should have switched to the other monitor in the first place. Like a cutscene started and then the game switched to another monitor. Like the resolution shouldn't have changed when I had a fixed resolution. It's not like dynamic or anything like that. And I've never had that issue before with any on PC at all. In all the years of me playing on PC, I've never seen that happen before, where the game just switches monitors randomly like that. And it always happened every time my cutscene started or I died. And then it wasn't doing that pre-hotfix, but it all kept doing it post-hotfix. Clearly, it's something going on with the game. But I appreciate the comment though. We can get into this next rapid fire topic. This one's probably be a pretty short one. Sony has announced a new studio called TeamLFG. Looking for group is what LFG stands for. A new studio consisting of veterans from Destiny, Halo, Fortnite, and League of Legends. Their first game, they are stating, will be a team-based action game drawing inspiration from MOBAs, platformers, fighting games, and frog-like games. I have no idea where the heck that's going. I think this is the studio that was spun out from Bungie that was making the gummy bears kind of game, I believe. Not 100% certain on that, but Forte, what are your thoughts on TeamLFG?
So this is a new studio under them. Former. Part of me feels like, what do you think? Part of me feels like this is part of that team that got split off from Bungie, and it's going to be.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
Oh, you did say that. Okay, that's what I was thinking when I saw that, because I didn't read the announcement of it. I was just thinking this sounds like this is what that new studio is going to be called. That's working on gummy bears and stuff. It's pretty cool. I mean, the biggest thing ultimately is going to come down to how is it. The funny thing, that studio is still inside of Bungie. It just has a corner in Bungie that is working on this, particular IP. I wonder if what they're going to do about growing the team outside of that, or are they just basically going to be using, parts of Bungie to help create it in the offset until they actually get probably a little bit deeper into development whenever it comes out, when this game is going to release, to see if they're going to build the team outside of that. But interesting. I was always kind of wondering what this game was going to be. It was like, rumored to be so many multiple different things and stuff. And it's finally good to see that they actually are moving in a direction where, it's not just, a studio underneath PlayStation. Now it actually has a name to it, and get a chance to see exactly what they're going to do with it. So,
my question for you is, do you think, because we know we've heard so much, we don't know the exact number, and some people have said the number and some people have said it's not that, but we've heard some really like bombastic numbers for how much it costs to do Concord, and Marathon clearly is not going to be a cheap game. When they finally release that, as far as how much they've spent on it total, this seems like a much smaller kind of multiplayer live service affair. Do you think that maybe Sony may be willing to make these kind of moves where it's not that as big of a risk as their other live service games were, and they feel more comfortable allowing something that this, based off of the description of the game, seems very unique? Do you think that's something that they'll start doing more in the future?
I think the scenario that they see themselves in is still not the scenario they wanted to be in. I still think in general this game was still being in full development underneath Bungie with Marathon, with Destiny, and anybody that saw the latest Destiny reveal, that game's not slowing down anytime soon. They're dropping content literally 2 years from now. That's how far they put the roadmap out, and they just showed the new stuff coming in June. So that kind of like gives me a little bit more of an idea that Bungie was like already scaling this game to be a smaller thing that they knew that they probably wasn't going to be able to like consistently manage. And I won't say consistently manage, but something that probably a small team like 20 to 30 people can like kind of work with and update over the course of the lifetime of the game. And then they just scale it over the time as they probably like one game got, once they wound down on one game, probably like Destiny, then they start scaling up on something else to see exactly where it is. So I think this is kind of finds Sony in a situation where it really wasn't a decision that they wanted to make when it came to this. This was already there, and the game was already pretty much in pre-production, and all of the decisions were probably made about this. Now, I'm not going to say this isn't going to help them, because it will. We all felt like the biggest thing with PlayStation is they jumped into the live service like head first, and went straight for the moon when it came to the amount of games that they were making. So this might be a blessing in disguise that this is going to be a smaller game. But in the end, I do think it's going to probably work out for them for the best, because they'll get not as much money will be spent on this versus all the other live service games that they were either working on and had to cancel, or games that actually came out and, didn't do so well. And they're still waiting to see what the reception for Marathon is going to be when that releases on September 12th. It really just comes down to what the player base comes to
later
that.
In September. So September 12th is
September 12th is Borderlands. Yeah, September 23rd. That's what I meant. Yeah, 23rd is that game. So I think it was just a blessing in disguise. I don't think PlayStation really had anything to do with, or anything to say at that point on what was going on with the overall development of that game, because we know at that point, anything that Bungie was making, Bungie had full autonomy over. They were basically just operating under the umbrella of Sony, not PlayStation, where this studio was broken off. Now it's going to be functioning, and they took the Gummy Bear games with them. So it's probably going to be for the best. And they could do a little bit of theory crafting on how they could build a live service game from the ground up with the expertise that they already attained from what Bungie is doing in that realm. So I hope it does really well, because it was one of the games I was kind of like wondering what it was going to be once it finally got spent off and we finally got that answer.
Cool. Logic, what are your thoughts on this? Logic, you still there?
Logic died.
No. Yeah, I'm here. I mean,
he died.
He didn't die.
I mean, I don't have a lot of theories. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I mean,
what you mean you don't have a lot of theories?
Well, it's like you said, right? This whole
tell us what you think.
This whole thing of like there was going to be this live service revolution, right? Of the PlayStation house.
Yeah.
Hasn't come to fruition. So, it's tough to know whether or not this is just going to be, another Psygnosis or another Studio Japan that, is going to try its thing, but is going to fly too close to the sun and wind up getting nipped. I don't particularly have a lot of high hopes for Marathon itself. Like the premise is just, it is what it is. Like I have tried. I cannot imagine a market response. I can't imagine a world where there is a market response that results in this game being successful.
What's wild is that around the same time Marathon was allowing people to play the game in alpha, another extraction shooter was doing that as well with Arc Raiders, and Arc Raiders reception was far better than it was for Marathon. Like I saw people who had played both saying that they enjoyed playing Arc Raiders more than Marathon, and kind of felt like that one is if any of these games end up becoming successful, they think is more likely is Arc Raiders over Marathon, which, I definitely would not have thought that to be the case like 6 months ago.
Well, the ball and chain that you and I have talked about, right, is like both of those games, but it's, Marathon is the one that sticks in my head more just because it's the more, I feel like it's the more known one or the more like news horizon one because it's Bungie and PlayStation. Like that game is incumbent upon you having like a regular crew.
Yeah.
And so that's the turnoff for me for Overwatch. Now, that all being said, right, Overwatch has proven to be successful. But it just seems like this game plays even less so to the notion of playing with random. So I don't know. There's aspects of Marathon that we don't know, and this is about LFG, not Marathon, right? There's aspects of Marathon that I don't know enough about the game to understand how they make the game appealing to people who don't want all that baggage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's I feel like that's what you have to have. Fortnite works because they have solos, and so if you don't want to be bothered, right, with duos, triples, and a full squad, you can get in and play solos, right? And then you can go play some squad stuff if you want to. But there are options. Apex Legends gets away with its requirement for some level of unity because they pioneered the ping system, really, and made it effective to fight with a bunch of randos.
And revives, actually. The revive stations that you see in Battle Royales, Apex Legends started that.
Yeah.
And Fortnite implemented it like 2 weeks later, right. as they tend to do.
So all this to be said is really, again, not about Marathon, but about just like any live service premise from PlayStation just feels dubious. And I don't say that to be a hater, right? I just, it was always, I mean, and praise be to Helldivers 2 for breaking the code, but it's always been a highly questioned play, this notion that they would put together a live service game that would only exist on PC and PlayStation and be successful, because I think that PlayStation single player games are successful. But what I have always said for like over a decade, right, was the first time I wrote about this. when an Xbox, and I think Xbox has moved past this time period, but just way back in the day, right, in the post 360 era, because I felt like during the 360 era and up until the post 360 era, maybe early Xbox One, this typified Xbox. When an Xbox first party title game used to come out, I felt like everybody, like the number of people who went and played it was just huge, right? You know, everybody, like, run into an Xbox 360 person, right, who tells you they didn't play Halo, or they didn't play Gears of War, or they didn't play Forza, right? PlayStation's, and there were admittedly, I think, fewer first-party titles back then. PlayStation, in my mind, has always made more first-party titles, but those first-party titles have not sold to as many people. You know, their approach has always been to be a little more diversified, right? To make, you know, a half dozen to a dozen first-party IPs, right, that engage different parts of their community, but those numbers, you know, wouldn't sell as big. Now, flash forward to today, you know, obviously PlayStation 4 era, you know, and PlayStation 5 era, right, produce games that sell in the 10 and 20 millions. But even still, when you put that against their user base, their user install base, you know, you're talking about, you know, very low percentage of their overall base. So if their biggest IPs, first-party titles, only sell to, you know, 10%, right, of their user install base or less, how many people are they going to get to onboard into a live service title, right, on PlayStation? And again, you know, praise be to Helldivers 2 for breaking that code, but then you're saying you're not only are you going to have Helldivers 2, but you think you're going to be able to support like a half dozen other live service games? Like, I don't
think they ever really intended all of them to be successful, or even half of them. I think they threw a bunch of stuff at the wall and they were hoping one or two would stick, and then those would be the ones that they would support, and the other ones they would, you know, hey, it's not working, shut it down. You know, like although Concord was an epic failure that, like, we haven't seen very many games fail that badly. They really just didn't seem all that enthused with allowing, you know, like we talk about how Ubisoft has allowed a game to get its legs. We talk about how, like, Rainbow Six Siege, you know, really, even though established IP, you know, not the best at launch, a lot of complaints, they stuck with it, they made it work. For Honor wasn't the greatest at launch, they stuck with it, they made it work. When it came to Concord, and that, like, I played the game, it's a solid game, but the issues that it had that kind of really repelled gamers from it, as if it was a plague, you know, those things should have been seen, recognized, and fixed over a year before the game released. Afterwards, you could have addressed those things and given it like another 6 months, but they just 2 weeks in, nope, shut it down, give everyone their money back. We're going to pretend like this never existed. And I mean, that's fine, because, you know, essentially the people who paid for the game got 2 weeks of free gameplay of a game, you know, because they got their money back after 2 weeks. But when it comes to sustainability, like, did they really learn from this? Did they learn? It may have felt like they may have thought they learned how to launch a live service game better, but you didn't learn anything about fixing issues from a live service game that didn't have a flawless launch but could still have potential. And I think they kind of missed the boat with that. To kind of bring it back to TeamLFG, I think a smaller experience that doesn't cost as much kind of allows them to not feel so skittish with, let's just shut this down because this is not working. You know, this is going to be a tax write-off. because we spent so much money on it, and it's not blowing up for us immediately. You know, like that's kind of, if you think about it, X Defiant still had a sizable number of players playing the game when Ubisoft shut that down. More players were playing that game than Battlefield 2042, Halo Infinite, a number of live service games that had way more hype and at this point very little player bases. That wasn't X Defiant, but they still shut that thing down because it was just too expensive to keep going. And I think that Sony, with a small team, with if the idea is unique enough, different enough in quality, if it's good, they execute on it, they may feel a little bit more comfortable supporting a project from a small team that didn't cost them an arm and a leg to make in the first place, and they can be a bit more patient with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a watch and see thing. I just it's tough for me to get excited, after all the things we've seen going on.
Yep. That's how I feel about it.
Or to think that this thing is even going to be around, right, a year from now. Like, what do we? Who are the people who just came back? What was Acclaim? Like, in this environment, right? You have people bring back like an old brand name, and I'm like, thinking they're going to do what? So, yeah. It's like I said, this is a thing that feels very similar to me. I'm like, hey, okay, well, I mean, congratulations if they're here a year from now,
Congratulations if you're still around.
All right, last rapid fire topic before we get into the mains. Epic's Tim Sweeney, CEO of Epic's, says Unreal Engine 6. Don't laugh. Unreal Engine 6 will be out in preview for developers in another 2 to 3 years. He contends that the current iteration of Unreal Engine 5, is being hindered by their decision to primarily stick with single-threaded simulations. These are his words. Not that UE5 can't do multi-threading. It's just that it's not. It was not something that they were building towards as primarily when they were building out Unreal Engine 5. He says UE6 will be fully embracing multi-threading logic. What are your thoughts about Tim Sweeney and him talking about their next version of the game engine that is currently still incomplete?
I mean, so the difference here in comparison to the last story, right? Like, PlayStation does a thing, and I'm like, I can't believe in it, right? Because of what's happened before. This is the exact opposite. I mean, regardless of how crazy it may sound, right? I mean, okay. I'm like, I guess this is what's going to happen, right? And this is the way it's going to be. Because guess who is becoming a house of UE? Xbox, right? Like, literally at this point, the largest publisher in the industry.
Well, I kind of feel like they always have been, honestly, even though except for like Halo is moving over there, but there aren't too many of Xbox, even post publisher acquisitions. There aren't too many of their games that don't use Unreal Engine.
Well, it's just the fact that they're one of the very first parties to pretty much almost exclusively, especially if you start thinking about the fact that they built the engine for Halo and decided to scrap it to move to UE, and then you think about all of the acquisitions.
Was trash.
Well, yeah, I mean,
sucks.
Well, listen, it's still the simple fact that they decided to do it after putting money into an engine, and then we already know Gears of War has always been on Unreal. And then all of the acquisitions they made by proxy have either used UE or moved over to UE. So It's just
Yeah,
more.
the only
It's just more of the fact that their whole studio is pretty much a UE house now.
Yeah, except for Bethesda. Bethesda is they have a few games that's on Unreal, but for the most part, they're id Tech or variations of id Tech and Creation Engine.
Creation Engine 3 or 2 that they're on right now that they need to just create a black hole to throw it into.
Bethesda needs to be forced to go to UE.
Yes.
Otherwise, I feel like they'll never get off Creation Engine as long as Todd Howard is around.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the case. I mean they have they're kind of tied to their modding community, and anything that they do with what they use is always they always have the modding community in mind in regards to okay, so but what about the modders? But if we go do this, what about the modders? So you look at like Oblivion remake. It is underneath it all still Creation Engine, but with Unreal Engine powering how the game looks visually, and they did that because they still wanted to be able to allow the modders to be able to do what they do in their games, which I've always said this for years. And Forte, you probably remember this back in our Scumcast days where I'd be like. They do that. I do too. They do that so that these modders can fix their games for them. This is what they care about, is the modders being able to optimize their games for them and fix and take care of all that other stuff. But I mean, I know that was kind of like simplifying things, but in a way, it is somewhat true in regards to what you see the modders do and how they take care of things. Look at Skyrim today. It was like a different game than it was completely when it first came out. And none of that's any work by Bethesda. It's all unpaid labor. And I think for me, just like my biggest thing with this whole thing with them talking about UE6 is that it reminds me of their talk at the end of last generation about UE5. And so I remember and I'm going further back, when some games I was looking forward to last generation were delayed for a significant number of years because the game that they were working on was initially being developed with Unreal Engine 3, and the developer was trying to get the game on Unreal Engine 4 and was running into a lot of issues, a lot of hills they had to climb. Tim Sweeney was all like, hey, we heard you guys about, the transition from UE3 to UE4 was not smooth. So going forward, we're making it so that it's a seamless experience going from 4 to 5. It's going to be like nothing. It's going to be no issue at all.
Could be like
that was not the case. That was 1000% not the case. So many developers I saw that had a game that was already out on 4, and I remember, I'll take Rogue Company for example. High Res Studios developing that game. The game ran fine on UE4, but I'm just like, visually, oh man, you look at all this stuff they're doing with Nanite and Lumen. I wonder if, sure, it's a multiplayer game and some people won't experience it that way, but if you wanted to go all out, with the visuals, you could do so with this kind of game, and it should be fairly easy, right? Me and my lack of experience as a game developer over here, and I remember speaking to the devs in one of their live streams back then, and they were like, absolutely not. We have zero ideas of doing that. We looked at UE5. Yeah, that's just not going to work for us. They didn't get into details, clearly, because they didn't want to piss Epic off. But there are other games that have come out now where the CPU issues that happened with Unreal Engine 5 forced devs to stick on Unreal Engine 4 to not deal with it. There was for a number of years the shader cache compilation issues where the shader caching of Unreal Engine 5 was not catching everything the way UE4 did. So developers who were familiar with UE4 were not were kind of taken aback when that game came out, and it's a stutter fest. And they didn't have a proper process of QA testing things the way it needed to be done on UE5, because they never had to do that before, because what they did, the process they had for UE4 was sufficient at that time. And so I look at all these problems that occurred that Tim Sweeney said would not occur, and then I see these comments today and I'm like, same old.
Yeah, the problem is that UE and Epic have become the NVIDIA of game engines. They have become the Steam of game engines. And the big and the huge F up, right, was Unity and John Riccitiello.
Yeah.
Like that just, I mean, that door flew wide open. UE rushed into like the remainder of the market share that they didn't have, right? And they've put down anchors, in that space.
Well, so, I mean, isn't Unity still the king of like mobile game development? Like, isn't that still the primary game engine that's free that mobile developers are using instead of Unreal? It's like the opposite for like anything non-mobile. It's more Unreal than Unity. But if you're making a game on Android or iOS, I think for the most part you want to stick with Unity, at least your attempt to, before you deal with all the other issues that are going on the back end. But as far as I knew, that was still the case.
Yeah, and I've played a game. There's some game that released this year that's on Unity that was like a big major release, and I'll have to look that up. But I mean, yes, but I think we see fewer and far between instances where Unity is being used for like a major console or PC title, even though it can be utilized in both spaces. And by the same token, UE can also be used to make mobile games. So why exactly? I mean, other than, like I said, that blip that happened, when Unity pissed, the whole development
they lost their
off.
mind. Yeah, that CEO. Yeah, he's not there no more, which is definitely a good thing. Although the board that was all all systems go on that idea are still there. So bad decision making can still happen. But my bad. Continue.
No, I was just saying I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a technical reason, I would think, why UE, beyond just the business stuff, right? Why UE has a chokehold on the console and PC space, and like I said, we just don't see. I feel like we used to see more Unity, and now we hardly ever see it on PC and console.
Yeah, I wish there were more proprietary game engines for games. I understand the limitations and why it's just simpler to go with Unreal. It takes less time to make your game. You need less people because you're not building a game engine with engineers while also trying to build a game with your game designers and other development teams. But you can see, like, I play Cyberpunk and I'm just like, man, I'm not going to see this game engine ever again. It's done. And I'm hoping that they can kind of take a lot of what they did with Red Engine and still make it work with Unreal, where it doesn't even feel like this is any different. But I mean, there was a report, I don't know how true it was, but there was a report, and maybe some CDPR developer spoke to someone on the low in the games media and said that Witcher 4 was a train wreck of development due to Unreal Engine 5. and maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration because you have an entire studio whose all their games have been on one game engine, and now there's going to be some learning issues, some growing pains moving to a completely different game engine. But
so that doesn't. I mean, I believe so. Codemasters, one of my favorite studios, who has historically worked off of a proprietary engine, I think called the Ego engine for their racing games, obtained the WRC license last year or the year before. I mean, it had previously been held by a racing studio named Katon. So the license moved kind of in a FIFA type like event over to Codemasters, particularly because, you know, WRC was hoping to cash in because Codemasters was now owned by EA. But the first World Rally Championship game that they put out, which is now the only WRC game that they put out, they moved to Unreal, and it was a travesty. Like, this is a studio that has basically done immaculate racing games since the beginning of time. They have been doing Colin McRae, which eventually became Dirt. They've been doing that series for over 20 years, and they moved that game over to UE in the first time, and it just blew up in their face. So much so now that they are not going forward with plans of moving their other racing franchises over to UE, and they're sticking with the Ego engine.
Well, that's good. Yeah, you know, it sucks that, you know, they had to kind of go through that experience, as well as the gaming community had to go through that kind of experience before they made that realization. But I'm glad, you know, when you make a mistake, correct it. When you see it's a mistake, you figure it out and you do better. I just see so many developers double down on stupid, and it just doesn't work out in the end. Forte, any thoughts on this before we move on to the other topics?
No, man, we killed this topic. This topic dead on arrival, died a slow death, just like live service games are.
One real quick addition: the 2025 releases that are on Unity are Hollow Knight Silksong, Mecha Break.
Okay, yeah. Really, Mecha Break? I did not know that.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting.
Repo, which has been blowing up on Steam, and Blueprints.
Oh yeah, Blueprints. Yeah, a lot of people talk about that game might be in the Game of the Year conversation as a nominee, because you know Expedition's gonna win it. But you know, that's good. That's good. You know, Unity is still kicking in there. Let's get to this first main topic here. You guys are gonna love this. So Microsoft game. I'm gonna call them Microsoft Gaming from now on, because clearly that's what they want me to do. They want me to call them Microsoft Gaming. Microsoft Gaming announced a remaster of the Gears of War Ultimate Edition, now called Gears of War Reloaded. Gears of War Reloaded and Gears of War Ultimate Edition are the first Gears of War game, and that only. It's not a trilogy with Gears 2 and Gears 3. Just the first game, which, you know, very groundbreaking game at the time. I would say a bit dated now in the year 2025. That said, this is coming out this year. I think August was the release date. Release month, the exact date I don't have on hand right now, but coming to Xbox Series consoles, of course, you know, as you would assume. Windows PC, of course, as you would assume. Steam, of course, as you would assume. But now also PlayStation 5 as well. PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro. So, real quick, before we get into the topic, I got a little bit of a mini rant real quick.
Mini rant, clear your throat. Pause.
Players who own the digital version of Gears of War Ultimate Edition will get Reloaded for free.
Yep, I saw that and I read it and I was like, I get it for free, baby. Go ahead.
On the surface, that sounds like such a nice thing to do.
It is
for your gaming community.
Uh-huh.
In actuality, this is some BS.
Go ahead.
Gears of War Ultimate Edition came out in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2014, how many people were buying games digitally? Not many.
But slow-mo, there is
no.
Listen, I'm with you on this. I'm
they
so
basically they're basically trying to get a pat on the back for giving like 5,000 gamers a game for free.
I mean,
it's just like it's there's barely anybody back then in 20, even me who from 2016 on, I didn't buy any physical games on any platform.
Mm-hmm.
Even back then, I owned that game physically. I had to double check. I'm like, I know I got the game. Checked it. Oh,
you don't.
Yeah. And so, and then this is the other thing they did. This is to let you know they were just trying to get credit for doing a good thing for like basically 1% to 2% of the people who bought the Ultimate Edition. If you look at the details of them giving it to free for people who own the Ultimate Edition, you had to abort the game minutes before they came out with the announcement. So 2 weeks ago, if you would have bought Gears of War Ultimate Edition, you would have got to reload it for free.
Uh-huh.
The moment they came out with the blog post that tell you it's free if you own Ultimate Edition, they were like, only if you bought Ultimate Edition before 11 a.m. today.
When was the announcement? What time was the announcement?
11:30 that day. So if you were reading the statement and go, oh, well, I'll just go buy Ultimate Edition and I'm going to get reloaded in a few months for free. You're already too late. You're already too late. They wanted to make sure that small percentage of people who bought that game digitally were the only people getting it for free.
So I'm gonna throw some water on it.
You need to throw some water on it because I feel like this is a overreaction to a situation. But go ahead, Logic.
Well, and I'm not. I mean, I agree that the numbers are probably small, and it was probably a little more politics, right, and PR emphasis than really it being a financial sacrifice. But I do want to say, for the PC, yes, Gears of War Ultimate came out early, but Game Pass started in 2017. Gears of War 4 had just come out in 2016. Day and Date was announced in 2019, which was also when Gears of War 5 came out. Yep. So I know for me personally, the combination of Game Pass and Day and Date being announced, which is what drew me into Game Pass, and Gears of War 5 coming out, made me on PC go, oh, let me get Gears of War 5 on PC. I think Gears of War 4 is on PC too, right?
Yeah.
I think only Gears of War 4.
Only 5 is.
Okay. So
no. 4 is on there. 4 and 5 are on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so all that groundswell of momentum, right, of Game Pass in conjunction with Gears of War 5 kind of being in my windshield, made me also pick up Gears of War Ultimate Edition, right? Because now all that stuff was in the Game Pass storefront, right? Which is booty, I get it, right, today. But I was a little tolerant right back in the day, just because I was getting all geared up for.
Hold on, are you really throwing water on this simply because you were one of like maybe 23 people, Logic, that bought this game over the past like 10 years digitally on Windows PC?
23 people.
Listen, you're outnumbered on this podcast alone, sir, because both of
50.
us. No, 75 to 25 on this podcast.
75 to 20. It's 3 people on this podcast. What kind of math are you on?
66.6% of the people on this podcast.
I cannot believe you just. Actually, I can't believe you just said that because look.
66% of this podcast bought it before.
3 people in this podcast is not a big enough sample size to say that a ton of people bought it digitally. We know that's not true. We can look back at.
It's enough of a sample size to say we're going to benefit from it while you seem to be salty that you're not getting it.
Of course you're going to benefit from it. I didn't say you weren't going to benefit from it. I'm saying, and I don't even mind that I have to buy the game if I want to buy it, right? I don't even mind that because I'm probably just going to play it through Game Pass anyway. My whole issue is the patting on the back.
Oh man, come on! Companies do this all the time. Companies do this all the time.
The peacocking is what I have the issue with.
No, this is all because you are a person that's not benefiting from it.
Yeah, I mean,
I literally own Game Pass. It does not. I have Game. It does not matter. I'm playing the game regardless.
Right.
What I understand is Xbox
anybody that does this. Where they're just like, hey, look what we're doing for all of our fabulous gamers out there. If you own the game, we're gonna give you reload. We're gonna give you reloaded for free, but only if you own it.
That's the Xbox
By
thing.
the way,
now,
you know,
right?
you're less than you're in single digit percentages for the people who own this digitally, but that's not the point. You know, for you guys, we're gonna take care of you. Yeah, aren't we great? Aren't we great as we're putting all of our games on other platforms?
It's also just like all the people that if you bought Gears of War 5 Ultimate, you got the DLC for Gears of War free.
Well, this is what I understand is part of the new Xbox strategy.
Gears of War
right?
5 Ultimate, yeah.
The Xbox community is explaining to me that Xbox is rewarding the people who bought in early, right? Who had faith in the brand. All you guys come to the brand late now.
Oh man,
pay higher Game Pass prices, higher prices for games, and higher prices for hardware.
Yes, we were there day one, Slow-Mo, and guess what? We got burned.
I was there day one,
and we got burned on some games.
I was there day one. I just bought it physically.
Slow-Mo, did you buy? You bought Halo Master Chief Collection, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you buy it physically or digitally?
I think I bought that. Actually physically. I can probably go over to my shelf.
I bought that digitally because I wanted to be in on day one. And guess what? People that bought that game digitally, when all the bad stuff happened to it, guess what? Those people got all of the other Halo games added to it for free. You got Halo Reach added to it for free. You got Halo, what was it? Halo, ODST was added to it for free. For all those people that bought digital copies, screw the ones that bought physical. And I'm just on my high horse right now because I actually bought the game because I'm a huge physical person. So I don't disagree with you, Slow-Mo, but I will not get on them and be on the soapbox about them giving stuff and saying that, hey, guess what, guys? And if you were a person that supported us back in the day, all of the 500 of you.
No, see, that language right there is the problem. But someone who supported us back in the day, buying your game physically is also supporting you back in the day. So like that language is wrong off the rip.
They don't have, but see, that's the thing though. Come on, listen, we live in a digital age where it's a lot easier to identify people that have a digital copy of it and say that we're going to unlock a code for you
again, because I feel like you weren't hearing me. I am not complaining about the fact that they gave it free for people who are digital.
Because they're
I'm complaining.
Their chest out.
Exactly. That's my only issue is that this is not.
What company doesn't do that?
And when other companies do that, I don't like it either.
No, PlayStation doesn't do it because you know what? PlayStation put Spider-Man out in 2018 and said if you want the remaster in 2022, you got to buy it over again.
Right.
L.
Which
L after
not great.
Not great either. I'm gonna be buying it along with you.
Even the upgrade. even the upgrade for Horizon on PC, you had to pay for that.
Yeah.
You had to pay $10. I was like, what? You know, the days of, you know, us getting an update to Skyrim and it being free slow-mo. Every time you remember every time Skyrim had an update. Oh, this is the game of the
of
year
course,
edition.
Skyrim.
This is
Of course, the Skyrim
edition.
update is free. They just basically copied the homework off the modders to do their update. So of course that's free. But there's less work on their back. But
that was something that they did though. You know, as soon as the game was available, they just gave it to you. And actually, if I remember correctly, even the Xbox versions, when they came out with the Legendary Edition and stuff like that, they gave that away to people free that bought digitally. If you had the original digital version of Skyrim, which is not too many people.
Hey, SloMo, in all truth, I'm going to be right there with you buying it, because as of right now, what I've been starting to do this past week or 2 weeks is I have made a list of pretty much all my games that are on PC, Xbox PC. And I'm rebuying all of them on Steam.
Steam, yeah.
Whenever I see them go on sale, I've had it with that app, so I'm done.
It would not surprise anyone, and it should track absolutely if like the Steam version of their game runs better on Steam than it does on the Windows PC store, because that's what usually happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my case, at least the game will install. Like I hit my tipping point a few weeks ago when I tried to install Microsoft Flight Simulator, which I paid for. Which you know, is a $70 game, and try to install it across 3 PCs from the Game Pass app, and then again from the Windows Store. And in each of those times, an install of Microsoft Flight Simulator takes a few hours. And I tried it multiple times across 3 PCs, and as it approached almost the end, right, it failed out. And I'm like, I'm done. You know, I'm never buying another game through that storefront, and I'm gonna transfer all my stuff over to Steam.
How about when Starfield dropped their expansion? It broke a lot of people's game saves. Actually, the game running in general on people's PCs through the Windows PC store, but no issues with Steam. This is just, it's just atypical. So like, this is why I'm reiterating that I don't care that I need to buy the game, or I can play it through Game Pass, or if I want to own the game, I'm definitely going to buy it on Steam. I don't care, because I literally, regardless of, if I owned it digitally, there's a good chance if it's a piece of crap port on the Windows PC that I'm buying it on Steam anyway, so it doesn't matter. I just don't like people bragging about basic stuff. That's all. And I know that was a kind of a side tangent to this whole topic.
You gotta let them get they flowers every once in a while. They've been struggling for a while, man. They alienated 99%.
I ain't giving them no flowers. They can get
their fans by putting their games in other places.
They can get a bag of manure. Grow your own flowers. That's why I give them.
You get on them. So listen, you get on them about devaluing their platform, but then you get on them also for the few people that supported them, no matter how few it was. The few people that supported them, they're giving them a free. They're giving them a free upgrade.
You keep saying that like that as if people buying the game physically wasn't supporting them, and that was the bulk of the sales for that game.
No, listen. It's just a simple fact, but listen.
You keep saying it incorrectly.
No,
because the way you were saying it is as if the only people who supported the game were the people who bought it digitally.
No, the people that bought it digitally, they actually got more. They supported more than the people that did physically.
How?
Because they
paid the same amount.
No, they didn't. They paid the same amount, but Microsoft's cut was a lot higher. Business 101, man. They made probably a good. Listen, they probably made a good $7 to $8 extra per person that bought that game digitally. because they didn't have to pay. They didn't have to pay, shipping fees and packaging fees and giving GameStop and Walmart and Target their 20% cut, which is like $7, $8, or $9 per game they sold.
Which they will never acknowledge that, because then the question goes to, why are you charging $80 for Call of Duty digitally?
Because they
later
can.
This year.
Yeah, well, listen,
exactly.
Because they can.
Yeah. If there is a different amount that you are getting for digital versus physical, I don't want to hear anything about we just want to reward the people who bid over better. Like I don't care. I do not care.
Over what?
You heard me. So look. This game's coming out on PlayStation. It's going to run better on the PS5 Pro than it does the Xbox Series X. That's going to be the best place to play this game on consoles. And, oh no, that's not this game. It's Call of Duty. Call of Duty, I don't know why for a second I thought this was the one that is getting the special bundle on PlayStation. I'm sorry, it's funny to me. But now there's no special bundle for Call of Duty, the next Call of Duty on Xbox, but it's on PlayStation. I just think that's just really hilarious. But who knows? They might do something special for this game on PlayStation as well. I guess it's hilarious to me the lengths they go to really devalue the Xbox console, and they just really show how little they care for it, and how they just wish it would die. It's like a old relative that is in pain. They're in hospice. They're in constant medical care, and every time you visit them, there's like an odor in the air. It's death, and you're just like, I just want Uncle John to be at peace. And you just kind of wish they would just pass. Not because out of malice, but out of pity. And you just want them to no longer be in pain. That's how Microsoft treats Xbox. They're just done. They just go.
I thought they were winning SloMo because they were selling more software on PlayStation.
I mean that's what you tell yourself. That's what you tell your children when they want to know why Uncle John can't get out of bed and he's screaming in pain. You just hey, look, he is fulfilled. He had a great life, and it's not as bad. He's over exaggerating. It's not that big a deal, and you make excuses. But I mean, as a third party publisher, they're going to be the biggest in the industry. They're going to make so much money when they can finally get rid of the hardware. But they currently right now they still have the hardware. And they still gotta support that even though they won't make units for it. They're using just in time supplying. Hey, look, I guess we need like 10K more units. Let's just go make 10K real quick. Yeah, and they won't be prepared when Call of Duty players on last gen are looking for a new console. They won't be prepared when Madden 26 players are looking for a new console. The new 2K, all these players are going over to PlayStation where there's ready supply. Xbox is not going to be ready for that, nor do they care to be, because they don't care about the hardware. Care about the hardware, they have their own bundle for their own game. Now they're good. Let's go get that from PlayStation. It's just funny. It's just funny to me. Anything you guys want to add to this? I know I've been very negative in this topic, but I felt it was warranted.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it's Gears, right? on, and it is on UE5, right? So it's Gears rebuffed and going to like other platforms. So, it'll be, I mean, I love the game. I'll pick it up again to play it on PC, because it would be a title that I would have tagged to get it off of the Xbox store and onto Steam. So with the new version to come into Steam, I'll definitely pick it up, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come, right? Hopefully we'll get more Gears franchises on PC, on Steam, and they're going to onboard the PlayStation community, which I think. Yeah,
I could definitely see them doing Gears of War 2 remastered next. I think this one was first because they had already did a remaster for this already. So it may take some time with 2 and 3, but I think eventually those will come. Especially if Reloaded does really well on PC and PlayStation. Yeah, you can definitely see that happening.
What are your guys' thoughts about, because it was a strange move to me to include the multiplayer?
I was under the impression that wasn't happening. When I heard about this a while ago, oh man, I may have heard about this like in August or maybe sometime in the summer of last year. I heard they were working on this and that it was going to PlayStation. But when I heard it, that it wasn't going to have multiplayer, which I thought was odd at the time, because a good, although I, as a Gears player, I play the campaign. I don't really care for the multiplayer, but there is a very loyal multiplayer community that I thought, they would want to try to cultivate on other platforms. But then when you kind of think about the meta of Gears multiplayer and there's nothing that really plays like Gears. So as I thought more about it, I said, it probably makes sense that they don't do the multiplayer, because you're probably going to put a lot of work into this and then have like a lot of people really not really engaged with it. You got crossplay, so you got these new players going up against some veterans who know how to roadie run, who know how to wall bounce, who know how to shotgun you, and just move on from your corpse in pieces and kill your teammates too. Like, I didn't think that was going to happen. Now that it is happening, I can't wait to see how that plays out.
What's weird is the Steam listing doesn't list the multiplayer. Oh, no, it does.
Really?
Multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
No, it does. I didn't see it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Good. Because I was like, what is going on with that? That'd be crazy.
I agree. That's going to be good. What's going to be super insane, right, is that this game is going to come to Xbox. It's going to perform however it performs, right? But it's going to have crossplay, enabling those players. And granted, those players are going to be the ones who are the veterans, right? Except, I mean, you've got a lot of Xbox refugees, right, that sought asylum in the nation of PlayStation. So, I mean, they're going to be playing on a different controller, but I'm sure there are a bunch of Xbox 360 expats, right, living over in PlayStation now. But still, those players are going to be going up against some number of people who are on PS5 Pros, where the game is going to run better, right, and PC. Right? So it'll be interesting to see who's curb stomping who.
Right.
But from a business perspective, it was just weird to me, because I'm like, so they're going to have to stand up that infrastructure, right? Additional ops center, right? Processes and cycle time. And granted, I mean, obviously they're the second biggest cloud service provider in the world. That's not necessarily an issue for them, but it's just super weird that all of the effort would be expended, not just in development and test, but also in SRE, DevOps, O&M to prop up this infrastructure and manage all this as an additional workload, out of the knock.
Well, Lodge, let me ask you this then. If this doesn't, let's say it sells well, but the player base for multiplayer is almost non-existent, or it's very small, and it doesn't seem to just quite work out. If they do a Gears 2 next, do they include multiplayer, or is it just the campaign?
Well, I wonder. So first of all, on your topic of it being small, it's also super interesting that I see all the PlayStation guys saying they're going to turn crossplay off, right? So again, like you're saying, like what happens if all the effort behind standing this up winds up
not working out because there's nobody to play the game because everyone's siloed off on the platform.
Well, in the community and with the community fragmented. Now, what's going to suck on Xbox is you can't. Typically, their approach has been you can't turn Xbox crossplay off.
Yeah, I think you gotta do it at a system level on Xbox.
You gotta do it at
you can't do it on a per game basis. But more than likely, most people don't even. I guess not care, but most people don't go through the effort to turn it off. Yeah,
I hate to say it, and I'm not saying it to be mean, but on Xbox you have to have crossplay enabled, or else you ain't gonna be playing with nobody. Right? So I mean, so that's people.
You don't have to have crossplay enabled because you can get all those games on other platforms that you can play with anybody you want to anyway.
Yeah, you just lost me, Forte.
I know.
What do you mean?
Nothing. Just go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, I also don't think it helps Xbox out a lot for them to deploy the multiplayer and then for the community to be like fragmented, right, along platform political lines. But it'll be super. It would. I wonder if they're doing this because you're gonna buy Gears 1, right? Or for Xbox and PC Game Pass people, you're just gonna get it in Game Pass. What if the next thing coming out is a Gears of War Coalition collection, right? Because none of the other Gears of War are on Steam either.
Right.
So they don't have 2, 3, 4, or 5 or Hive Busters.
Yeah.
So what if the next thing
and those are going to be the highest, like Steam and PlayStation are going to be your biggest platforms for sales. Right. Those are going to be the platforms that are going to get you the most sales. So you don't have those games there. There's a high chance they'll go through the effort of porting them there because this is just not free money, but it's likely to do really well. For the simple fact that it wasn't there before, and now here's the opportunity for that. Yeah.
So what if they put those out as a collection and that has multiplayer? And they give you some discount, right, if you bought Gears of War Reloaded. And so now in addition to Master Chief Collection, right, potentially if it ever shows up, right, now you have Gears of War Collection as well with multiplayer.
I think a collection may come, but it may be some years down the road for that. For the simple fact that like Ultimate Edition was done in 2014. That was 11 years. I mean, still was like a decade ago, but 2 and 3 never got the same treatment. So I feel like there's more work to be done there to get those ready for a modern audience in 2025. And I don't think they want to wait too far along from releasing this, which is coming out this year, before doing the next ones. Especially when you got E-Day as well, which is, even though that was announced, I don't think that hasn't been officially announced for PlayStation yet, but we all know, we all see the tea leaves here. We know what's up. It's coming to PlayStation. If your goal is to try to get all these games out there to communities that haven't played them yet, and especially if the first one really takes off, you're going to get a lot of people who are interested in trying the other ones. And they clearly don't believe they want to play it on an Xbox. So you're going to try to get it out there as quickly as possible. Getting it out there quickly as possible, I don't think isn't waiting for to do it in a bundle. Because then you got to wait for both of those games to get done. And the multiplayers of both of those games. You could just do it one at a time, and then people can engage in the next one. Kind of like how, and even though I had somewhat of an issue with them not releasing a lot of the Call of Duties that now they own ABK and Game Pass. But I heard internally behind the scenes, the reason why they haven't done so is that they don't want to devalue all the other ones by releasing them all at once. If they do that, then people are going to just kind of just gravitate towards the more popular ones, and then the other ones they put the work in to get there aren't going to get any love. So if they kind of like drip feed it out there, then each one gets a little bit more interest in the other. Like I think Modern Warfare 2 is now, I think this month, going into Game Pass finally. I can see if they would have put 2 out there when 3 was out there, I can see people playing the campaign of 2, but not the multiplayer, because the multiplayer for 3 was better than the multiplayer for 2. So now that it's out there on its own, I see more people kind of going back to it, playing it that way. You know, the interest is a little bit higher when it's not being crowded by a bunch of other stuff. They'll probably do the same thing for Vanguard, considering Vanguard is probably one of the most unpopular Call of Duties to come out in a while. You don't want to put that up against the other more popular games, you know. So I can kind of see a similar thing with Gears.
I guess the Coalition is doing Reloaded in collaboration with Sumo Digital.
Well, it makes sense. You know, Sumo does a lot of support studio work, and they're good. They're very good at that. So that makes sense to me.
That's in fact all they do now. So this year they announced that they will no longer be developing their own games. They're all everything they're doing is as a support studio. Yeah.
What was the last lead development game that Sumo Digital did? I can't think. I feel like they dropped one recently, but I can't think of it.
I don't know what individual game they did. Everything I see is all their support stuff.
Yeah, I know they did I mean, this is a while ago, but Crackdown 3. They did Crackdown 3. Yeah. But they didn't do the multiplayer for Crackdown 3. They just did the campaign part, which was actually good. The multiplayer was hot garbage. I mean they're a good studio, but yeah, they do they've always done far more support work than lead development work anyway. So I guess it makes sense.
So they were the lead for Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Sonic and All Stars Racing Transformed, and Outrun 2006.
Well, Sonic is trash. So I mean that is what it is. My last thing on this topic would be what's next. I have an idea of what's next. If you guys want to hear it. What will be announced next, my theory is Hellblade 2 will be announced next.
I think that's good. I think that's almost, that's like a no. That's a good choice because the first one was already over there, and it only makes sense for this one to come over there. Probably for like when did it come out last year?
Hellblade 2? Probably about a year ago. We're around this time last year.
It was like in March. So it's due. I wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be probably the game that they release over there during the spring, fall, or something like that. In that window?
Well, I would say probably summer.
I did say spring. I meant summer, fall. Yeah, summer, fall. It's already. Yeah.
I think you probably don't want it to step on Gears' toes, although it's kind of a different kind of gamer, different kind of demographic that would be interested in that kind of game. But these are your own releases that you're porting over to the other platform, so you kind of want to let each one breathe. It wouldn't surprise me if we heard Hellblade go on the PlayStation before the summer, before the Xbox showcase this summer, and that is releasing before Gears. Like, because that would make sense considering the Coalition, even though they're working with Sumo Digital, who has worked on PlayStation before clearly, but the Coalition hasn't. Whereas Ninja Theory has done extensive work with the PlayStation platform and PlayStation tools, so it would make sense they would be able to port their game faster than the coalition could. What about Starfield this summer as far as an announcement goes?
I mean, this is a larger avalanche. And I don't want to say the question you're asking isn't like a interesting question. My feeling is they should just send everything over. Because when you brought up Hellblade 2, right, I was thinking back to it and I'm like, at this point, other than because they have to, like, why would Xbox release games for its own platform? Like, my problem with Hellblade 2 is nobody played it.
Yeah.
Like
it wasn't a bad game, but it didn't get any it didn't get any like large number of sales, which I mean the first game didn't either. I think it sold like 1 million, maybe 2.
I even mean from playtime.
I mean, like Expedition 33 has cleared that in like less than 2 weeks.
I mean, I didn't finish Hellblade 2. I played through chapter 6. There were 8 chapters. And by the time I was in chapter 6, I was seeing, and again, I was not an Xbox main. By the time I was in chapter 6, I was seeing single-digit percent, like almost the vast majority of achievements.
Oh, everything's diamond achievement. Yeah.
What's that? Yeah,
diamond achievements for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most achievements in that game are mostly just completion achievements, right? Complete chapter X, complete chapter Y, like And so by chapter 6, I was seeing single-digit percentages for people who had completed. And so we just saw data like this for Clair Obscur, where the playtime, and again, it was only over its first 2 weeks of release, but the playtime on PlayStation for Clair Obscur was like double what they were seeing on Xbox, where the game is in Game Pass. And I'm like, I mean, even though they needed to do it financially, I mean, I have to believe that the developers, right, were also at the studios at Xbox were also screaming to get their games over on PlayStation because they released them on Xbox and they're not played. So it's just kind of like with the whole thing that we've been talking about tonight, like other than because they have to, because the vast majority of their Game Pass subscribers are on Xbox. I'm like, it's beyond, it's past the time where I'm like, what, like why? Literally the only reason you're deploying games on Xbox is to have something for the people who have subscribed to your subscription service, right? To toe dip into.
Well, to your point, I said that from the very start. So let's go back a year ago where they had that dumb business update where they sat there and Phil Spencer lied through his teeth about 4 games. That clearly he knew at the time was way more than 4 games, and even some of the games that he said were, we're not saying that Starfield is going, we're not saying Indiana Jones is going, and then within a year Indiana Jones was going. Like, why do this wishy-washy will they or won't they rigmarole? Just come out and say it, bruh. All of our games are going to other platforms. These games don't sell as what we need them to sell on the platforms that we've been putting them out on. It doesn't mean that Game Pass is going away. It doesn't mean we're changing how Game Pass works. But we need more, especially after acquiring ABK. I mean, sure, that's not a very popular statement to make. But I think it would have been respected better if it was like that. So everything's going. New stuff, old stuff, it's all going. And I think if they would have did that, there would have been tearing of cloth, gnashing of teeth, screams in the night for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then people would have got over it. But because they drip fed it like this, you still get people out here. You still got some Xbox hardcore gamers that are just like, well, like even a month ago, some of them were still like, they'll never put Gears and Forza and Halo over there. And it's just like, they said no red lines. Finally. They said no pillar. can fall. Like no pillar can stand. They said this months ago, and people just ignored it until now. And it's just like you could have just ripped the Band-Aid off a year ago and saved yourselves, the integrity of some of your executives who got caught, looking kind of funny, and actually maybe have still got the respect of some of the player base that you have. But they don't care about those people. And I know that's kind of tough to hear, but they just don't care about any of these people. There's not enough of you who are upset about this kind of things, or upset about not being told the truth, or, wondering why you own this Xbox when all of its games are everywhere else, but none of the everywhere else games are on this Xbox. They don't care how you feel.
So
you are irrelevant to them. It is what it is.
Are you guys buying the Xbox PC next generation?
Depends. It depends on what it is, really. Like, I need to see the details to it. The Xbox PC handheld thing.
No,
I need
the desktop hybrid Xbox that will have access to the Steam store and Epic Game Store.
Well, isn't the official Xbox app that will be through Windows also going to have essentially that as well?
Supposedly, at least at the UI level. I also find that it's super funny that there's rumors or discussion of an Uber console that will have access to the Epic Game Store when Xbox doesn't put its games on the Epic Game Store.
Yeah, I think there's a, I'm just going to say this now. There's no guarantee they actually drop hardware in 2 or 3 years. I think we gotta, when you have a CEO who has never been about hardware, when he's always been about, we just put our software everywhere, and that's been his philosophy. Windows Phone shut it down. Didn't really care all that much about Surface. He's not a gamer and does not really care about the Xbox hardware whatsoever. And their games are going to all platforms now. Switch to PS5, doesn't matter who wants it. We're even marketing our games over there. We're giving special edition consoles, bundles over there that we don't do on our own hardware now. They don't even make the hardware in anywhere near the same degree of units that they used to make them. Is it really a stretch for them to be in a meeting and for Satya or Amy Hood to just be like, why are we still doing this? Why even make it? We give them an OS. We give them a hypervisor setup. We allow other manufacturers to make official quote-unquote Xboxes for us, Asus, Logitech, Lenovo, whoever. And we just make our games. You just put them everywhere. Half of the top sold games in the PlayStation Store are our titles. We can just keep further embracing this. What's the counter argument? I don't think that, I can come up with counter arguments, but none of the things that the bullet points that you would have, they value. I don't care about those things. Yeah, so I just there's no game. I know for a fact they are working on hardware. I just don't know or fully believe we will ever see it. Like Keystone, which was supposed to be a dongle you connect to your TV. That was supposed to be a thing. Until it wasn't. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they are going to come out with hardware, and I've had this thought that it would be, you know, the plan and the design is for them to run hardware as a boutique service like Surface. The problem with that is, right, and then therefore the notion of the apocalypse isn't as extreme as Windows Phone, right, which is always the example I point to. But even when it's Surface, you still look at what has gone on with Surface today. Like Surface started because there were groups within Microsoft that were salty about Apple and wanted to prove that they could also do hardware that rivaled the MacBook. And then there was never any mandate put on that team for them to sell, right? That they just wanted to be in the conversation. And quite honestly, Surface, and even the Surface Book, right, with the problems with the original hinge, like those things are marvels of engineering. But flash forward to where they are today, and Panos Panay has left because his discussion with Satya was that there wasn't going to be the continued investment in innovation in the hardware space. And Panos was like, well, then I can't realize my vision, right, of hardware, and it doesn't make any sense for me to be here. And so now he's over at Amazon as head of devices. So even with it being a boutique play, it has a limited range of legs, right? So, I mean, I feel like they are going to do this, and they're going to stand up. Right, it's going to be a pop-up store, but then in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking, okay, but this thing also has a sunset date, right? At some point, they're going to do this for X number of years, and then they're going to be done. So what is the worthwhileness of that box? Even though, like I said, there's a lot of things from a tech geek perspective that I like about it, and I love the idea, as I've mentioned a few places before, that we're going to get back. You know, we used to have this slice just above consoles but below PCs, where we had the Commodore 64, the VIC-20, the Atari Amiga, the Coleco Atom, the TI-99, right? All of these kind of low-powered PCs but uber-powered, right, consoles that would allow people to do like some basic computing stuff. And it would kind of be wonderful, right, from a nostalgia perspective, to have that market segment back. But, you know, I have to believe that, like you're saying, SloMo, the plan is not for that business to last forever, because it's already at a point where it's not making sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I know we're kind of getting long in the tooth tonight. I don't want to harp on the topic for too long, and I know it may have veered in a direction. It may have veered in a direction that some people may find to be hyper negative, which is fine. I don't care how people feel about my opinions, even though they're right. We can move on to this final topic that, you know, I think we all have. Oh, go ahead.
I do want to hear from Forte. Forte, are you buying the next Xbox, the Xbox PC?
No.
Okay.
What for?
All right.
Xbox P. I mean, if it's a handheld, yes, but the handheld I'm going to buy most likely, but I have a PC, so no reason to.
And there you have it.
That's
why they ain't gonna make one.
Well, somebody will buy it because
not enough somebody's.
No, I mean, well, it doesn't matter. Well, this is the thing I've been telling people. They'll support hardware until it gets to a point where it's diminishing returns on the services that are on those platforms when it comes to like how many people are in that ecosystem paying for Xbox Live or Xbox Core and Game Pass on there when it comes to the console side of it. If we get to a point where that number is like 5 to 6 or 7%, and they may not, you know, continue to keep doing that, but that's a lot of money that still is on the line for them to, you know, still bring out consoles or bring out something that's in line, more built to order when it comes to people that want that ease of use, just to be able to plug something up and be able to interact with it. So there's a lot of people that still are inside of that ecosystem that they don't want to lose that that bread and butter from. But the moment we get to that point where it's not beneficial anymore, they'll do an Xbox 360 and shut the store down, like they did with the 360.
They have a path forward for those people, and their path forward is allowing you to have access to your games. I mean, it's not like your Xbox Series X is going to stop working the day they say we not making new hardware. But if you want the next thing, you're going to have to be looking at like another manufacturer that is doing an Xbox branded something, or you can have access to your games through a hypervisor kind of setup on a PC or some other kind of device.
No, I just think that they're at that point. I don't think they care about the extra, like the 30% they were making off of third parties as much as a lot like how much Sony depends on it.
Why would you when those games are barely selling on your platform?
That's what I'm saying, but
yeah, they don't
care. But you do care about the amount of money that people are spending inside of your ecosystem when it comes to your services, though. The moment you remove that and put it somewhere else, first of all, it's not even a certainty that your services are going to be able to go to somebody else's platform and be able to do that compared to what you have on your own. Now, like
you said, I think their exit strategy is and I think you've mentioned it too before, Forte, and like SloMo said tonight, and I firmly agree. I think their exit strategy is let's do this Xbox PC for the next generation. And get the partners, right? Asus, Acer, Lenovo, HP, Alienware, right? Get all those guys to start making their own variants of an Xbox. We're still going to own the platform because we own the OS. So everything that happens on it from a software perspective is all us. But they're gonna sell the hardware. And if what we do boutique is right. I mean, what Surface did was Surface made. Because the PC manufacturers had all given up on the notion of tablet PC, and then the iPad came out, and then Jobs put Gates to shame because Gates had this whole concept of a tablet PC. It had lost traction, and Jobs was the one who brought it back and reinvigorated the tablet category. And so, but the PC manufacturers had given up on any notion of anything that was like a tablet PC. And so what Surface did is it got everybody to start making 2-in-1s, right? Which is amazingly super popular laptop category today, right? It's what tons of businesses and enterprise buy. And it's taken off, right? And it's taken off because Microsoft told everyone, hey, look, hold my beer. We can make this 2-in-1 thing that is a tablet half the time and then a regular laptop half the time. So if Microsoft does the same kind of play in the Xbox space, right, and Windows it up, then hopefully they can get the partners to start making this stuff, and then Xbox can sunset and exit the space at the end of next generation and turn that all over to their partners. And on top of that, I firmly believe that they will also outsource, right? They will outsource to like Asus and say, look, and you guys handle all the warranty work for anybody who still has, right, an Xbox, like a Series, console.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel you. I just kind of feel like that exit strategy is already fully in motion. It is not in stage 2. It's like in
totally
stage 6.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So look, last topic of the night: Grand Theft Auto 6. Of course, the first part of this announcement was revealed a day after our show last week. I saw that. I was like, man, they couldn't do this a day earlier. But Rockstar officially delayed Grand Theft Auto 6 last Friday, a day after our last show. They have delayed it to May 26th of 2026 next year, meaning that now every developer and publisher who was sweating bullets trying to figure out how and when they will release their game around this massive game can have a little bit of leeway to kind of give their devs a little bit more time to get things optimized and polished before release, instead of feeling like you're pressured to release a month or two too early in order to try to, avoid this massive black hole of a game. But not just that, they also released a trailer this week, the second trailer, official trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 that has a lot of people discussing a lot of different things with this trailer. Rockstar has officially stated that this game is running on a PlayStation 5 in-game and is a combination of equal parts cutscenes and actual gameplay. And there have been people who have been just like, hey, this ain't no on the PS5. This gotta be a PS5 Pro. This is not a regular PS5. And there are people who are like, oh, I don't believe it. I don't believe this is any of this is gameplay. And I'm just like, so y'all don't know who Rockstar is? Is my thought. It's just like, oh, I asked Forte this. Why are people doubting Rockstar, man? Why is that happening?
I don't know if they're doubting Rockstar. I feel like they're doubting PlayStation because of this thing that PlayStation has, the marketing.
Right, but it's just like, and you can't get around the fact that you're doubting Rockstar's word on this. Forget that PlayStation has the marketing, because they're and I don't even think it was a, maybe you could say somewhat of it is console warring or platform warring, because I saw some PC guys that were doubting the trailer as well. But it's like people like don't understand that Rockstar's working on this game for like 13 years. And they got like 1,500 developers all in house working on this game. They don't have the kind of milestones and that need to be hit in the deadlines that other developers are put under by other publishers. With Rockstar and Take-Two, it's ready when it's ready.
It's ready when it's ready. We want an update. Rockstar, we'll Take-Two. We need an update.
This is the same developer that in a time period where everyone was doing dynamic 4K and calling it true 4K, and it was not 1 second of the game actually hit a actual 4K resolution on last gen consoles. They released Red Dead 2 on the Xbox One X that was actually native 4K, and it looked fantastic. And at a time when no one said that was possible. It's like, I just find it odd that people are doubting. And I don't even think, like, after looking at this trailer like 5,000 times, I feel like I can tell when there's a cutscene and when there's actual gameplay. I don't really see, like, it looks great. The animation work is fantastic. It's Rockstar. Of course it is.
Did you see the shot, the video shot of them sitting on the couch and watching TV and looking at the beer bottle and watching the beer bubble inside, like fizzing inside the bottle? I was like, bro, this is some hell of attention to detail.
Yo, the hair looks like, wow, real. Like the hair on the guy's arm looked like real hair on someone's arm. Like the game looks amazing. This is the kind of, when you spent 13 years making a game,
it better
and
look
you
like
have
this.
the level, it better look like this. This is the same developer that when they did Red Dead 2, and I admit I was impressed by this in Act 1 of Red Dead 2, but halfway through the game, I was damn near sick of it. When you loot a body in other games, if you loot a corpse, you're just supposed to suspend disbelief. There's no animation for it. There's just items on a body, and now you have them. There's a little ticker in the corner that says you just picked up 5 keychains and $3 or some crap like that, right? In Red Dead 2, Arthur Morgan literally bends over, grabs the dead body, pulls the opening up coat pockets, going into their pants. There's an actual animation for that.
Yep. It's great, but it's so annoying after you do it like 1,000 times.
It's just, exactly. It gets annoying after a while, but this is that's how they do things.
Well, just like remember when Red Dead Redemption first started and everybody was like, why is he walking so slow? Because we're at the very beginning where you're walking across the yard and it's like you can't run across it. It like makes you walk, so it's like doing telling the story of the environment and everything. And I was like, this is Rockstar, man. What did you expect? Nothing's gonna be fast and quick in this game.
You'll be in camp in Red Dead 2 and Arthur Morgan to get up and you can just, like, me being a not gonna say an older man, okay? I know some people in the chat about to make a comment. You know what? Save it.
In my day,
I am old enough that, like, sometimes when I get up, I feel it.
My back hurt.
Yeah, my back hurt. My back hurt a little bit. You know, you kind of you do a little stretching as you're getting up. You see that with Arthur Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Like he ain't a spring chicken. You know, it's just they put that level of detail and work into it. So why would you be surprised that this is running on a PS5 with their own proprietary game engine? This isn't Unreal. They don't have those kind of limitations. They not saying the hardware isn't the hardware, but they're going to put the level of detail and time in to make sure that it is the very best that it is going to be. And no, they do not care about 60 FPS. They never had. So y'all can just get that out of your mind. It's not going to run at 60. I'm sorry. You're going to get a 440 FPS with VRR enabled mode on PS5 Pro. That is the most you're going to get. When you only got 10% better CPU in a PS5 Pro, this thing is going to run on 30 on PS5 and 30 on PS5 Pro with slightly better visuals. But you're not going to care because it's going to look great on a regular PS5 anyway.
But let's talk about.
And when it comes out on PC, it's good. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead and wrap up.
Yeah, and then, like, when it comes out on PC in a year and a half or so after it releases on consoles, it's going to blow everyone away again. Because if you play, you could play Red Dead 2 right now on PC and it looks better than 99% of the games that are out. So
way better. Has DLSS.
Yeah, it's why doubt them? I just wonder if the people who are doubting them play games. Also, shout out to all of the anti-DEI crowd losers who
anti-DEI
who were like, this trailer looks very anti-cop.
Oh.
It's called Grand Theft Auto. Newsflash, you're committing crimes in these games. A lot of them. You're basically committing crimes every 5 seconds in this game. It's very anti-cop. But you would know that if you weren't a grifter trying to just get attention in the gaming community. Anyway, go ahead and say your piece, Logic.
So let's talk the real talk, what everybody's talking about, and that is Maniel Perez being Lucia.
People have a problem with that? 'Cause she looks fantastic.
Oh no. People do not have a problem.
No, there's no problem.
The problem is not what people are talking about.
I missed this one. Is she now needing security because people are looking for her in real life or something?
Yeah, I might go out in search of this.
Oh man,
I might go out and search for this.
Yo, it's wild. So remember before the first trailer came out, how everyone was like, "Oh man, one of the main protagonists is a woman. They're gonna make her a ugly slag hood booger. This is gonna be disgusting." Now it was a whole different story. They're going in like crazy.
That was a man and that was a woman, and it was everything that you see in real life. Crazy. I was like looking at that trailer. I was like, whoo. I was like, man, you know, the funny thing is, my wife,
follow her on Insta.
You know, listen, the funny thing is, my wife, I told her, I said, babe, did you see the trailer yet? Cause you know, she's a huge, like, favorite game, Grand Theft Auto. And she's like, I don't want to. She said, yeah, I saw it was out. I didn't want to watch it because I don't want to be mad that I got to wait till next year. So I said, just watch the trailer. So I sat there and watched her watch the trailer. And man, she is like, God damn you, Rockstar. Why you do this to her? Man, she even tried to say, she said, I'm not impressed. It's been 13 years. It should look like that. I said, shut up. You are impressed. You just mad that it's not coming out for a whole nother year. Man, that trailer looked incredible, bro. I was looking at this trailer. I was like, look, you on the street and you like looking at cars going by and pickups, you know, transporting freaking Sea-Doos and stuff. And it was incredible. It was incredible. And they kind of showed you the whole kind of gauntlet of like things that you could kind of see in the game. And let's be for real, you thought you were sick of the animation of Arthur Morgan going down picking people's pockets after they were dead. You gonna see a whole bunch of crazy little things in this thing that's gonna annoy you like 15 hours in. You'll be like, why can't I bypass this? But that's part of the ambience and the world builder that they're doing there, because even when I was just looking at just the skyscape of it, I was like, man, this is incredible, bro. And they still have a whole nother year to work. Well, probably another 6, 7, 8 months to work on it.
That gets me into my final question about this. Do we think this game is going to get any more delays past May 2026, or is that the final date?
When is Rockstar's fiscal year up? Or not there? Well, Take-Two's. That's the question.
I don't think it matters. I mean,
no. I know it doesn't. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because when it's ready, it's ready. I'm just saying, right. I don't see it skipping. They delayed it by a whole year. Like it wasn't like 3 months, 6 months. You know, it was a whole year. So it's kind of like, I think the fact that they actually gave you a release date, like even when Red Dead got delayed twice. They didn't give dates. They just gave it like windows and stuff, and they delayed them out of those windows. And then when they finally gave a date for it, it was an actual date. That's why I think Rockstar just said, you know what, we're going to delay it a year, but we know this is the date it's going to be. We'll be ready by this date. So I think the fact that they gave the date, it's gonna hit the. If it was like a 4-month or 5-month delay, I would say there's a good chance it could probably get delayed again, because I don't see the game. Well, it could release in October, November, but I'm starting to think that a lot of studios or publishers are really starting to embrace that idea that you don't have to be a holiday game. Like, why not release early in the year, capture all those sales, especially something like Grand Theft Auto. They're going to sell whatever they're going to sell day one, no matter what. And then, you know, over the course of the rest of the year, you just keep selling. And then in the holidays, everybody buys your game again, because it's going to be the number one game that everybody wants to buy during a holiday in 2026.
They have spent billions on this game.
Yeah, that game's coming out next year, bro.
And they I don't think that matters, because I think they know within the first month they're gonna make all that money back and then some.
All that money's gonna come up. They're gonna be in the green 3 weeks after 2 to 3 weeks after that game comes out. They'll be in the green.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's ready when it's ready. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets delayed until like October next year or something like that, just to make sure, you know. But it's
coming, man. I think it's coming. Pause.
I don't know. Logic. What do you think, man? You think, is that the date, or is it you're going to get delayed again?
I'm gonna say it's gonna get delayed again. I mean, I would. Part of me is bullish because they set a date. Because I think a lot of people missed that there was a date when this thing happened. I think there was so much volume and noise around. It's May 2026. I was kind of like, you guys do realize they tightened that up to an actual specific date, right? And I need to check my calendar, but I'm feeling that's I believe that's a Tuesday, and I'm feeling that is before Memorial Day weekend, right? Which would, you know, somebody always goes then, right? Puts out a game for Memorial Day weekend, you know, to take care of all the 3-day weekenders who, you know, are going to play video games. But I was listening to Christopher Dring's new podcast earlier today, and he said that historically Rockstar has put their games out in the spring, but I'm looking back at it now, and Red Dead Redemption was fall. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2, I believe, was also fall. GTA was fall. So many GTA games were fall. GTA 5 was spring. Well, it was spring for the next gen consoles, but it's I want to say its original release on the previous gen consoles was fall. So it's hard to tell. But I think they have the cushion, now that they've delayed it till May. I mean, I'm going to guess that their fiscal year ends in it's got to end in either March or June. If it's March, then it being in May means that they have room to slip it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're already in the next fiscal year. And
right.
I always highly suspect that with big games, whenever they say they're gonna, launch earlier in the year, that there's like a likelihood that it'll actually slip to be another, a follow-on holiday season release.
I'm about to actually find that out now.
But I think what they have to do, help me out. How is this? So I know with GTA 5.
Yeah, it's gonna get delayed again. Take-Two's fiscal year ends in March. So they've already delayed it outside of the current fiscal year. So it has nothing to do with the fiscal year whatsoever. So they could delay it again to say like September.
They're not gonna delay
October. And it's still within the same fiscal year. I look, man, just because they got a date doesn't mean it can't be a new date.
No, I mean, I don't think they're going to delay it again. I think. So if it was like I said, if it was a 4, 5, 6 month delay, I would be like, yeah, it's a good chance they could delay that. They pushed that thing a whole calendar year. Like we're not even at. But
Forte, you're acting like it was supposed to come out like this month or something.
No,
like they never had a date for this year. We just assumed.
That's still what. That's the thing. The date probably was in like October or November. But they told you a year ahead of time that it's coming out a year later.
So
like that's still a year.
I think a reason why it might go on time is because when they did GTA 5, they put the game out first. They put the online out later.
It was 30 days later for the online, a month later.
And even though they did the online later, it was still a travesty.
Sure was.
Right?
It was horrible at launch.
It took like 2 months, right, to get it stable. So one reason why it might stick in May is to give them time to put it out, and then time to put out the online and time to fix the online before holiday season. And
that's typically their MO with that. They did the same thing with Red Dead 2. Red Dead Online didn't come out anywhere. I think it was like months later. Now I think about it. After Red Dead 2 came out. So that actually somewhat tracks that they would hit the mic.
You know what?
That they would do that.
I knew your name.
But that still don't mean
I knew your name made sense.
That still don't mean it won't get delayed because like the PC because like the PC version, there are people who were like, oh, I can't wait I'll just wait till 2026 to play this on PC. Wrong. You're gonna have to wait to 2027. I saw people trying to do the mental gymnastics to think that somehow this delay meant you were going to get the PC version at launch.
No, you still gotta wait a year. You got 2 years.
Exactly.
Now.
They don't change it up just because they delayed the game.
Yeah, they still got.
They delayed the game to get the console version ready, not your version on PC, buddy. You still got it. They get delayed means you get delayed. Yeah, you're 2027 now. Yep. So,
but it's not getting delayed.
I could go for it.
I think that's the day.
All right. Well, look, man, we're going out of here. It's already it's midnight. It's late. Y'all, we some old men here. We need our rest.
So just damn. GTA 5 PC didn't come out until 2 years after
2 years
GTA
after.
5 console came out.
Yeah.
No,
Yep.
2015, man.
Now, I don't think it will take that long for it to come out because traditionally their games have not sold amazingly on PC, and console has always been their bigger pool of players. But considering what has happened since GTA 5, PC community has a very big, and they've recognized this and have already kind of gone through the avenues of trying to create the next GTA line to kind of incorporate some of these things. But the PC community with these custom servers that are running like different versions of GTA where people are cosplaying and role playing all kinds of nonsense. They got flying cars, they got freaking Iron Man in there. There's all kinds of stuff going on these custom servers and stuff. It's a bit different than it was back when they did Red Dead 2 and back when they did GTA 5. I do think that what that means now is that they're going to try to get that game out sooner for that community of people who they know they could definitely make a lot. But now it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of them paying thousands of dollars to random guys running random servers running a Git version of the game, they're going to be paying Rockstar. And so they want to go and try capture that money as soon as possible. So I don't think 2 years, a year and a half at the latest, I think. For the PC version.
I don't even think it'll be that long. I mean, I threw out the data point that's what. But I mean, they have RP server admins and live streamers and people from those communities that they hired as consultants into Rockstar. So I mean, they're actively working on that PC version. I am going to be as aggressive as saying it'll be 6 months after launch that they're going to try and get it on PC for that holiday season to push that into the RP. Because as soon as GTA 6 drops, that RP server community is not going to want to stay on GTA 5. And those RP servers are all PC.
Yep. So they're going to be wanting to move over, and Rockstar has a game plan for that. And it's not to be working with Billy Bob's server. It's to be working with a version of that server through Rockstar that is going to be far more responsive and getting things fixed. And you know, hey, look, when you paying that monthly subscription, you paying it to me, not to them. They're going to jump on that pretty quickly. Anything else you want to say about this before we get into these outros?
No, I don't, man. I mean, it's an interesting news story, but then for me personally, I also don't care about GTA.
Yeah, I just think it's more interesting that, you know, Logic is about to go stalk a couple of Instagram, TikTok channels to, you know, find the person that he want to, you know, have a night on Miami with. I don't blame you though. I was like, whew, Jesus. Remember the original, this is the funny thing. Remember the original like leak footage where everybody was like, why she look like that? They can say she had a big booty and all, but she didn't look all that good. Now look at everybody. It's like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, what you were looking at back then wasn't meant to be looked at yet.
Are you sure that was her, or was that like there's a lot of fake stuff out there?
No, that was supposedly the gameplay of the female protagonist that you were playing with in that game.
Oh no, all that stuff was like no one was ever supposed to see that.
That's what I was saying.
It had no assets or textures or anything, and it's just people not understanding how game development works. Like all the prettied up textures and lighting and stuff that they do when they release the game, they don't develop the game like that. Like that's unnecessary. They don't do that until they're ready to, you know, they're finishing the game up and they're ready to ship a finished product. Like it's just people don't understand game development.
It's wireframes for the majority of the dev cycle. The one other thing I did want to say though is the narrative that should be discouraged is I totally agree that games worry and people worry about game sales, that they're all breathing a sigh of relief now that the thing is pushed out. But the notion that Clair Obscur and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 are breathing a sigh of relief because of fear that they were going to be facing GTA 6 in Game Award season, that's some foolishness. GTA 6 has never been a serious contender for Game of the Year. It won 1 Golden Joystick, and the rest of and they've won 2 Spike freaking VG awards, which those Spike TV awards are the equivalent of the MTV Movie Awards. It's a total dude bro crap show that was superseded when Keighley took off, right? When it was shut down and Keighley took off into the TGAs. And while we all have problems with the TGAs, I do believe at least at the outset, the TGAs and the nomination process and the voting process still starts from a space of critical review and critical acclaim. And I don't believe GTA 6 was going to be anywhere in that conversation.
I disagree. I would say so. One, because GTA 5 came out before this current iteration of the video game awards, where like the way they're doing it now versus Spike TV. I think this game, if it's anywhere close to what people expect from the story mode campaign, they're going to part of the reason, not part of the reason, but due to the fact that like the online will be definitely later than the actual like single player mode, means that it won't be a part of the review. So all the bugginess and the how badly it runs at launch will not play a part in its reviews whatsoever. I think it used to be the kind of game that people would like a guilty pleasure kind of game that people would say, yeah, you know, I play GTA and slap some hookers around, but like I don't really take it seriously kind of title. I think that might be different when this thing is going to sell more than any, like, I mean, it's going to at launch sell more than what GTA 5 did at launch. Like, it's going to be that kind of a big release. I can see it being a part of the conversation, but it winning is, you know, we'll see what happens. Like, I agree that it's not a guarantee that it'll win, but nominee, I think it's whatever year it comes out, it's a guaranteed nominee.
So I'd agree with you that the Spike Awards have been superseded by the TGAs, but while that was going on, you still had DICE, the BAFTAs, GDC, right? You had all the other award shows. And despite none of them, right, prop that game up for Game of the Year.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I think depending on how this campaign plays out, and if it ends up pissing someone off like the way Hogwarts Legacy did, which doubtful because you know there isn't a writer that has pissed off a bunch of people that we know of yet to make the game a scapegoat for their ire with that person. But we'll have to see what happens. Either way,
is this their first game out since Hauser left?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that may play a part as well as far as a different vibe for the game as a whole. I know there have been some people who have been fear-mongering that, and that may be the case, but it could be a change in a positive direction, or it could be a negative direction. It doesn't always have to be, you know, one or the other or both. So we'll have to see what happens. But let's get up out of here. Forte. Let's let Logic do his outro first.
Do your
Appreciate you joining us once again, sir. Let everyone know where they can find you.
You guys can catch me on the Enough to Keep Going weekly video games podcast on the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you're, I don't know, interested in some nostalgic gameplay or just gameplay in general of maybe stuff you haven't played, I'm also, I think, after 2 years of going back and forth, I think I am back on the horse of video production and posting gaming videos back on the Rounding Off Infinity gaming channel on YouTube. So I've been doing a replay of Doom Eternal, remembering very well why I hate that freaking game and said I would never play it again after completing it. But here I am because Doom the Dark Ages is coming out. So I figured I would at least play a little bit of it, and so I've got 3 videos up about that this week. And like I said, I'll mostly be doing clips and let's plays. But every once in a while, I'll still be doing. I'll be getting back to doing some live streaming. I did one of those this week, so please feel free to check it out.
Yeah, I was
Forte.
I was looking at your icon on your channel the other day, and I was like, look at this man looking all intense with his headphones and his Scully hat on, playing video games on a mouse and keyboard. I was like, this icon.
Yeah, I had the those production sets. I was using the Panasonic Lumix GX85 Forte, going through the 810 Mini Pro. So
nice. That's what's up.
Yeah. Forte, what you got going on, man?
I'm trying to get back to something warmer. Well, first biggest thing is my wife. Well, we'll find out Monday if she can like resume everything but going back to work. So if she finds out that she can like go back to full operational things outside of like heavy lifting and going back to work for another couple of weeks, then my life will open back up a little bit. But outside of that, no, just DPS next week. I don't even know what's up with IOP because that's Mother's Day that day. May be there, may not be there. I got to figure out what we doing with my wife that day first. But I have a question for you, SloMo. Well,
okay.
Logic, you're not married, are you? You don't have kids either, do you? Or do
yes,
you?
to both.
Oh, you do? Okay, so to ask you both this. When it comes to when your kids get of a certain age, because like SloMo, your oldest kid is how old now? They're not
15.
Yeah, see, your kids are still in. So this I was talking to one of my friends about it. I was like, one of my kids is that age where she can buy mom her own gift and stuff. So is there a point where you stop buying Mother's Day's gifts for your wife because your kids are old enough to buy the gifts themselves, and the only reason you was buying the gifts before?
No,
I know. I'm not saying for me. I'm just saying in general, because this conversation was being broached, and I was like, before you say anything else, don't get yourself killed. I said, because you just set a precedent
on Friday.
I said you just set a precedent. They said, well, the only reason you was doing it is because if she wasn't a mom, your baby mama, you wouldn't have been buying her stuff because she wouldn't have been a mom. I said, true. I said, but you set up because that kid can't buy the gifts themselves. So your dad and you're buying the kids on the behalf of the kids, and you done did it for so long now because his kids at this age are like 11 and 12. And I was like, listen, you've been doing this for like 12 years. I don't care if those kids are 20 years old. You are always going to go to that woman and you're going to give that woman a gift, even if your kids can buy their own gifts. I said, it's never going to stop. You said, if you didn't want to buy gifts for her, you should have never had kids buy her.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's a non-negotiable. You got to do it, man.
You got to do it.
No, it's not even a question.
Once you have him, you got to do it, man. I was like, dude, don't die. I said, if you don't come to work on Sunday, I know why. But no, outside of that, DPS podcast next week gonna be great. And get back to a realm of normalcy. I don't know if anybody's seen it at some point if not this weekend, it will be early next week. I will be streaming on the DPS channel because shout out to K Asante. He put a bounty on my head for Death Stranding, and not only did he call my bluff because I kept talking crap about that game because I refused to play a walkie simulator with boxes on my back.
It sucks. It sucks. So.
Yeah, it sucks like hell. But he said, all right, I need you. So he bought the game for me on Steam and DM me the code. Gosh. So I am forced to at least stream 2 hours of this game. I just got to figure out. I'll know if it's not this weekend. I'll know by Monday, depending on what happens with the other situation. But at some point before DPS podcast next week on this channel, there will be a stream of at least 2 to 3 hours of Death Stranding. And
well, I will be. Well, I'm gonna take some drugs so I can be able to watch this without throwing up. And I've been through this before. Rest in peace, Big Mike, who did this to me when I was streaming on Twitch, and that forced me to have to play Death Stranding for 2 or 3 hours on my Twitch stream. It was excruciating. Felt like I was getting my fingernails pulled out one by one by an Italian mobster. So good luck to you. You're gonna need it because it sucks. The game sucks. Sorry, it's overrated. But I will check it out and laugh at you as you tend to do me whenever I get in these kind of situations.
No, you're gonna come into Discord with me, and you're gonna be my partner as I go through this together.
I'm not looking at the screen. I've already seen everything that you're gonna be doing, and I don't need my eyes to bleed again. That said, with Borderlands 4 coming out in September, I had an idea that I would go through and like min-max a new build from scratch.
Let's do it.
Each game, each month. So starting probably in this will be in June, Borderlands 1. Game of the Year edition, I think it's called. That's the latest one. And then in July, Borderlands 2, the GOAT. And then in August, Borderlands 3. And we do all that up until September. So I'm trying to think of a build that I haven't done yet. So to kind of make it interesting. And so I'm going to do a little bit of theory crafting on my own. But by the time we get to June, I'm going to have my idea, and we're going to get into doing that. So that'll be a nice little stream I'll have going on for the summer. But other than that, I'll be playing some more Expedition 33 because I'm not done with that either. And jeez, I mean, I guess I got stuff in the backlog I need to play, but I'm not really interested in playing nothing else. Not even Call of Duty. I ain't even buy the Battle Pass for Call of Duty because I already know how I feel. So, yeah, we're gonna get up out of here. It's late. You guys, thank you for Arcade said y'all need a third. The more the merrier, especially for Borderlands. That's I'm all for it. So Arcade, if you see us on, just jump in. I think you're in the Discord as well. So, hey, jump in and we can get it started. Let's get up out of here though. It is it's fairly late and I want to go to sleep.
It's 5
y'all
on the dot.
And okay, Usher. Y'all have a great rest of your morning and enjoy your games. Peace.